Sable had 3 days to survive. 3 days to avoid being claimed by the monster Alpha Harrow, a male she'd never met and feared. So she ran. Straight into the Crimson Den, a lawless tavern full of rogues, outcast wolves and danger at every corner. There, a stranger offered safety. Gentle, patient, protective, one night to choose, one night to feel safe. But dawn revealed the truth. The stranger is Alpha Harrow, the very monster she tried to escape. Now her gamble, her one night of freedom, has put her fate directly in his hands. Sable soon learns that danger can be gentle and monsters can be irresistible. Chapter 1. 3 days to damnation. The Crimson Den smelled like sweat, blood and bad decisions. Sable pressed her back against the rough stone wall, hood pulled low over her face, and tried not to look as terrified as she felt. Around her, wolves laughed too loud, drank too much, and fought over things that didn't matter. Rogues, outcasts, the kind of males her father would have had whipped for stepping foot in Thornwood territory. Perfect. Her heart slammed against her ribs. 3 days. She'd had 3 days to find a way out of this nightmare, and this insane plan was all she had left. Ruin yourself for Harrow, and maybe he'll reject you. The thought made her stomach twist, but not as much as the alternative. Not as much as becoming Alpha Harrow's mate in 2 days. His property. His toy to break. She'd never met him. Not once. Her father had negotiated the entire arrangement through messengers and pack representatives. Alpha Harrow is a busy male, her father had explained when Sable begged to at least see her future mate before the ceremony. He doesn't waste time on courtship. The alliance is what matters. But Sable had heard the rumors. Everyone had. Alpha Harrow was brutal, vicious. Twice her age, with a scar across his throat from a challenge fight he'd won by ripping out his opponent's spine. His pack lived in fear of him. And his previous mates, because there had been others, the whispers said, had died under mysterious circumstances. Accidents, the rumors claimed. But the way people's voices dropped when they said it told Sable everything she needed to know. Her father didn't care. The alliance saves our pack, he'd said coldly. Your comfort is irrelevant. 3 days ago, the Thornwood estate. Sable had thrown clothes into a bag with shaking hands. Midnight. The patrols would change shifts in 10 minutes. She'd timed it perfectly. The window opened silently. She'd oiled the hinges that afternoon. Freedom was 6 feet away. Going somewhere, sister? Her blood had turned to ice. Slowly, she'd turned to find her eldest brother Garrett leaning against her bedroom door, arms crossed. Behind him stood Marcus, the second eldest. Both of them wore matching expressions of disappointment. Garrett, please! Father, Garrett had bellowed. Everything after that was a blur of shouting, her father's cold fury, her mother's tight-lipped silence. Her brothers had held her arms while her father spoke in that quiet, deadly voice he used when he was truly angry. The alliance is worth more than your happiness, Sable, more than your comfort, more than your life, if it comes to that. He'd gripped her jaw, forcing her to meet his eyes. You will marry Alpha Harrow. You will solidify this alliance, and if you try to run again, I'll have you locked in the cellar until the ceremony. She'd had bruises on her arms for days where her brothers had held her too tight. You look lost, sweetheart. The voice snapped her back to the present. Sable's head jerked up, and she found a scarred rogue leaning against her table, grinning with too many teeth missing. His breath reeked of cheap whiskey. I'm not? Then what's a pretty little thing like you doing in a place like this? He reached for her hood. Sable caught his wrist. Don't touch me. Feisty. He laughed, but his grip tightened. I like that. How about you and me? She said don't touch her. The new voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. The kind of quiet that made the noise around them seem to dim. The rogue's grin faltered. He looked past Sable, and whatever he saw made him release her wrist like it burned. Didn't know she was spoken for. Now you do. The rogue disappeared into the crowd so fast, Sable almost laughed. Almost. Then she turned to see who'd scared him off, and her breath caught. The male standing behind her chair was tall, broad-shouldered. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes, gods! His eyes were the kind of amber that seemed to glow in the torchlight. He wore simple clothes, nothing that marked him as anyone important, but the way he carried himself. Every instinct, Sable had screamed danger. But not the kind of danger the rogue had been. Something different, something that made her skin feel too tight. "Thank you," she managed. "Don't thank me yet." He moved around the table and sat across from her without asking. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Sharp jaw, slight stubble, a faint scar through his left eyebrow. "You shouldn't be here." "I can handle myself." Clearly, his lips twitched, almost a smile. "That's why you were about to get dragged into a back room by a rogue with 3 brain cells and a drinking problem." Heat crawled up Sable's neck. "I had it under control." "Sure you did." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. "So what's a young female doing alone in the Crimson Den? This isn't a safe place for someone like you." "Maybe I'm not looking for safe." "Then what are you looking for?" The question hung between them. Sable's pulse hammered in her throat. This was it. This was why she'd come here. But now that the moment had arrived, the words stuck like thorns. Just say it. Just ask him. "You're running out of time." She swallowed hard, forced herself to meet his eyes. "Someone to help me." "Help you with what?" "I need..." Gods, why was this so hard? "I need someone to be with me. Tonight. Just once. No names, no questions, no... Stop! Stop!" Sable's mouth snapped shut. Her face burned hot enough to melt stone. The male's expression had shifted. The almost smile was gone, replaced by something darker. Something that looked almost like... concern? "You're asking a stranger to bed you?" It wasn't a question. Sable lifted her chin anyway, trying to look braver than she felt. "Yes? Why?" "That's a question. I said no questions." "That rule doesn't apply when what you're asking could get you hurt." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I'm going to ask again, and this time I want an honest answer. Why are you here?" The intensity in his voice made something crack inside her chest. Sable's hands clenched in her lap, hidden beneath the table. "Because in 2 days I'm being sold to a male I've never even met," she whispered. "A male everyone says is a monster. And if I'm not pure when he gets me, maybe he'll reject the deal. Maybe I'll have a chance." Silence. The male stared at her for a long moment. Then he exhaled slowly, like he'd just taken a hit he hadn't seen coming. "You're trying to ruin yourself." "I'm trying to survive." Sable's voice cracked. "I tried everything else. I begged my father to let me at least meet him first. He refused. I tried to run. My brothers caught me and dragged me back. She touched her ribs without thinking, where the bruises from that night still ached. "This is all I have left." The male's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to where her hand rested against her ribs, and something dangerous flickered across his face. "Your family did that to you. They were just following orders. That's not an excuse." "No." Sable's laugh came out bitter. "But it's the reality. My father says the alliance is worth more than my happiness, more than my life if it comes to that." "And this male you're being sold to, you've really never met him?" "Never. My father handled everything through messengers, said Alpha Harrow was too important to bother with courtship." Sable's throat tightened. "But I've heard the rumors. Everyone has. He's brutal, vicious. His last mates died under mysterious circumstances. And in 2 days, I'm supposed to stand in front of both packs and let him claim me like I'm cattle." The male was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. "What if the rumors are wrong?" "They're not." Sable shook her head. "My father wouldn't sell me to someone decent. Decent alphas don't need arranged mates. They don't need to buy alliances with someone else's daughter." "Fair point." The male tilted his head, studying her. "So your plan is to ruin yourself and hope he rejects you. Then what?" "I don't know. Run, maybe. Find a way to survive on my own." She met his eyes. "It's a terrible plan. I know it is, but it's all I have." Another stretch of silence. Then the male stood, and gods, he was even taller than she'd thought. He held out his hand. "Come with me." Sable stared at his hand like it might bite her. "Just like that? Just like that? You don't even know my name. And you don't know mine. That's the point, isn't it? No names, no questions." His amber eyes held hers. "But I need you to be sure, once we leave this table, once you take my hand, there's no going back. So I'm asking one more time, are you sure this is what you want?" No, she wasn't sure. She was terrified, desperate, and completely out of options. But in 2 days, she'd belonged to a monster she'd never even seen. So Sable reached up and took the stranger's hand. His palm was warm, calloused, strong enough to crush hers, but his grip stayed gentle as he pulled her to her feet. This way." He led her through the crowd, and Sable noticed something strange. Wolves moved out of his path. Not obviously, not like they feared him, but they noticed him, and they gave him space, like he was someone important. Who is this male? They left the main den and followed a narrow path carved into the ravine wall. Torches flickered in iron sconces, casting dancing shadows. The noise from the den faded behind them until all Sable could hear was her own racing heartbeat and the stranger's steady footsteps. He stopped at a wooden door, pushed it open. "After you." The room inside was simple but clean. A bed, a table, a fireplace with embers still glowing. Nothing fancy, but worlds better than the rough dens outside. The stranger moved to the fireplace and coaxed the embers back to life. Flames caught, spreading warm light across the room. He straightened, turned to face her, and for the first time since they'd met, he looked uncertain. "I'm going to be honest with you," he said quietly. "I don't usually do this. Take females I've just met back to private rooms." Sable's throat tightened. "You're having second thoughts." "No, I'm having first thoughts about whether this is really what you want or if you're just desperate enough to go through with something that terrifies you. Does it matter?" "Yes." He crossed the room slowly, stopping just in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "It matters to me." Sable didn't understand this male, didn't understand why a stranger in a lawless den full of rogues would care about her reasons or her feelings. But standing here, looking up at him, she felt something she hadn't expected. Safe. "Tell me something," he murmured. "Not why you're doing this, but what you want from tonight." Sable's breath hitched. What do I want? I want to feel something other than fear," she whispered. "I want one night where I get to choose, where someone touches me because I asked them to, not because they own me." The stranger's jaw tightened. His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently pushed back her hood. Sable's dark hair spilled free. She watched his eyes trace her face, her two wide eyes, her pale skin, the bruise on her cheekbone she tried to hide with powder. His thumb brushed the bruise so lightly she barely felt it. "Who hit you?" "It doesn't matter. It does to me. You said no questions." "You're right, I did." His hand dropped. "But I'm going to make you a promise instead. Tonight you're safe. Nothing happens unless you want it, and the moment you want to stop, we stop. Understood?" Sable nodded, not trusting her voice. "I need to hear you say it. I understand." "Good." He stepped back, giving her space. "Then let me make one more thing clear. You're calling the shots tonight. Not me. You want this to happen? You tell me. You want me to touch you? You ask. You want me to stop? You say the word. This is your choice. All of it." Tears pricked Sable's eyes. When had anyone ever given her a choice about anything? "Okay," she breathed. "Okay." The corner of his mouth lifted, almost a smile. "So what do you want, sweetheart?" Sable's heart hammered. This was insane. She was standing in a stranger's room, about to ask him to do it before you lose your nerve. "Kiss me," she whispered. The stranger moved so smoothly she barely registered it. One moment he was across the room, the next his hand was cupping her jaw, tilting her face up. His thumb traced her lower lip and Sable's breath caught. "You're shaking." "I'm nervous." "Don't be." He leaned down until his lips were a breath from hers. "I've got you." Then he kissed her. Soft, careful, nothing like the brutal claiming she'd been bracing for. His mouth moved against hers gently, coaxing rather than demanding, and when Sable gasped, he deepened the kiss just slightly. Testing, asking permission without words. Sable's hands fisted in his shirt. She'd been kissed before, awkward fumbling with a pack male when she was 16, before her father had declared her off limits to everyone but potential political matches. But this was different. This felt like being seen, like mattering. When the stranger finally pulled back, Sable's knees were weak. She swayed slightly and his arm wrapped around her waist, steadying her. "Still with me?" he murmured. "Yes." "Good." He kissed her forehead, then her temple, then the spot just below her ear that made her shiver. "Because I'm just getting started." Later, much later, Sable lay wrapped in the stranger's arms, her head on his chest. The firelight painted gold across his skin. His breathing was steady, one hand stroking her hair absently. She'd expected it to hurt, expected to feel used, dirty, ruined. Instead, she felt precious. He'd been so careful with her, patient, gentle. He'd made sure she was ready, made sure she wanted each step before taking it. And when it had hurt, because of course it had a little, he'd held her through it, murmured reassurances, waited until her body relaxed before moving. This is what it should be like, Sable thought distantly. This is what I'll never have with Harrow. The thought made her chest ache. She'd never even seen the male she was supposed to marry. Didn't know if he was young or old, scarred or unmarked, tall or short. All she knew were the rumours. Brutal, vicious, deadly. And this stranger, this kind male holding her like she mattered, was everything Harrow supposedly wasn't. Tears slid down her cheeks before she could stop them. The stranger's hand stilled in her hair. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. Her voice cracked. Everything, I don't know. He shifted, pulling her closer. Talk to me. I can't. She pressed her face against his chest. I can't think about tomorrow, about what comes next. Can we stay like this? Just for tonight? Yeah, sweetheart, we can stay like this. His arms tightened around her, solid and warm and safe. Sable's eyes drifted closed. Why does this stranger feel like home? It was her last thought before sleep pulled her under. Chapter 2. The morning after midnight. Dawn light crept through the window like an unwelcome guest. Sable's eyes fluttered open, and for one perfect confused moment she didn't remember where she was. Then the weight of an arm across her waist registered, the warmth of another body beside hers, and everything came rushing back. The Crimson Den, the stranger, last night. Her breath hitched as she carefully turned her head to look at him. He was still asleep, face relaxed in a way it hadn't been while awake. Dark lashes rested against his cheeks, his chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. One arm was thrown above his head, the other still curved protectively around her. Beautiful. That was the word that came to mind, and it made Sable's throat tighten. This male, this stranger, whose name she didn't even know, had been so careful with her, so gentle. He'd made her feel wanted, cherished, like she was something precious instead of a burden her father couldn't wait to be rid of. This is what it should feel like. The thought brought tears she couldn't stop. They slid hot down her cheeks as she memorized his face, the slight scar through his eyebrow, the strong line of his jaw, the way his hair fell across his forehead. She'd never see him again, never know who he really was, never be able to thank him properly for giving her one night where she got to choose. But that was the point, wasn't it? No names, no questions, no consequences. Except Sable was already feeling the consequences, this ache in her chest that told her she was leaving something important behind. Stop it. You can't think like that. You have to go. Moving carefully, slowly, Sable extracted herself from the stranger's arm. He mumbled something in his sleep but didn't wake. She held her breath until his breathing evened out again. Her clothes were scattered across the floor. Sable gathered them with shaking hands, dressed as quietly as possible. Her fingers fumbled with the laces on her boots, stupid, clumsy, but finally she got them tied. The stranger was still sleeping, peaceful, unaware. Sable took one last look, burning the image into her memory. Then she pulled her hood up and slipped out the door before her courage could fail. The walk back to Thornwood territory was hell. Sable's legs screamed with every step. Her body ached in places she'd never ached before. Not painful exactly, just different, a reminder of what she'd done, what she'd given away. The forest was quiet, except for birdsong and her own ragged breathing. Dawn painted everything in shades of gold and pink, and under different circumstances it might have been beautiful. But Sable couldn't appreciate it. Her mind kept circling back to the same thought on repeat. What if it didn't work? What if Harrow doesn't care that I'm not pure? What if I did this for nothing? No, she couldn't think like that. Traditional alphas were supposed to value purity above almost everything else. The rumours said Harrow was old-fashioned, brutal, controlling. Males like that rejected mates who'd been with others. It was about possession, ownership, being first. He'll reject me. He has to reject me. By the time Thornwood's borders came into view, the sun was fully up. Sable's heart hammered as she approached her family's estate from the back, keeping to the trees. The last thing she needed was to run into a patrol. Her bedroom window was still open, thank the gods. Sable grabbed the lowest branch of the oak tree beside it and hauled herself up. Her arms shook with the effort, muscles protesting, but she managed to climb high enough to reach the windowsill. She tumbled through the window and landed in a heap on her bedroom floor. "Where the hell have you been?" Sable's head snapped up. Her father stood in her doorway, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Her mind went blank with panic. "I went for a walk." "A walk?" Her father's voice was dangerously quiet. "Before dawn, for hours, the day before your mating ceremony. I couldn't sleep. I needed air. You needed air." He stepped into the room and Sable scrambled to her feet. "Or were you planning another escape attempt?" "No, I swear. I needed to clear my head." Her father's eyes narrowed, studying her face like he could see straight through to her lies. Sable forced herself to hold his gaze, praying he couldn't smell the stranger on her skin, couldn't see the guilt written across her face. Finally, mercifully, he nodded. "Get cleaned up. The ceremony is tonight, and you look like you've been rolling in the dirt." "Yes, father." He turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "Don't embarrass me today, Sable. This alliance is the only thing keeping our pack from collapsing. If you do anything to jeopardize it, there will be consequences." "Am I clear?" Sable's nails bit into her palms. "Crystal." The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a cage locking. Sable's knees gave out. She sank onto her bed, hands shaking, and tried to breathe through the panic clawing at her throat. "He doesn't know. He doesn't suspect anything. You're safe. For now." "Sable!" The soft voice made Sable jump. She looked up to find her younger sister Iris slipping through the door, closing it quietly behind her. Iris was 16, all wide green eyes and dark curls that never stayed in their braid. Where Sable had learned to make herself small and invisible, Iris still had hope in her face, still believed things could be good. "Hey," Sable tried to smile. "Shouldn't you be at breakfast?" "Shouldn't you?" Iris crossed the room and sat beside her on the bed. "Father was looking for you earlier. He was furious." "I know, he found me. Where were you really?" Iris's voice dropped to a whisper. "And don't say you went for a walk. I know you better than that." Sable's throat tightened. She wanted to tell Iris everything about the Crimson Den, the stranger, the desperate gamble she'd taken. But how could she explain it without sounding insane? "I just needed to get away for a bit. The night before your mating ceremony." Iris studied her face, and Sable saw the exact moment understanding flickered in her eyes. "Oh God, Sable, what did you do?" "Nothing. You're lying." Iris grabbed her hand. "You look different, lighter somehow, like..." She paused, searching for words. "Like you're not as scared anymore. What happened?" Tears pricked Sable's eyes. Leave it to Iris to see straight through her. "I can't tell you." "Why not?" "Because if Father finds out, he'll..." Sable's voice broke. "I can't drag you into this, Iris. It's safer if you don't know." Iris's grip tightened. "Is this about Harrow? Did you find a way out?" "Maybe. I don't know. I tried something, but I won't know if it worked until tonight." "Tried what?" Sable shook her head. "Please don't ask me that." For a long moment, Iris was quiet. Then she pulled Sable into a fierce hug. "Whatever you did, I hope it works. You deserve better than being sold off to some monster you've never even met." Sable buried her face in her sister's shoulder and let herself cry. Just for a minute, just long enough to release some of the pressure building in her chest. When she pulled back, Iris was watching her with worried eyes. "What if it doesn't work? What if he still takes you?" "Then I'll survive." Sable wiped her face. "That's all I can do." "That's not fair." "No," Sable managed a weak smile. "But when has anything in our lives been fair?" A knock at the door made them both jump. Their mother's cold voice filtered through. "Sable, the attendants are here to prepare you. It's time." Iris squeezed Sable's hand one more time, then stood. "I'll be there tonight. At the ceremony, I'll be right there, okay?" "Okay." Her sister slipped out, leaving Sable alone with the sound of her own racing heart. It's time. The next few hours were a blur of bathing, dressing, and being treated like a doll. Attendants scrubbed Sable's skin until it was pink, washed and braided her hair, painted her face with cosmetics she never wore. They dressed her in ceremonial clothes, a deep blue gown that matched Thornwood's colours with silver embroidery that probably cost more than most pack members made in a year. Through it all, Sable felt numb, disconnected, like she was watching it happen to someone else. Her mother appeared halfway through, studying Sable with the same critical eye she'd use on a horse at market. "You'll do? Thank you, Mother." The words tasted like ash. "Don't embarrass us tonight." Her mother's voice was sharp. "Stand straight. Smile when appropriate. Do not cry, do not faint, and for God's sake, do not give Alpha Harrow any reason to question this alliance." Sable's jaw tightened. "I understand." "Do you?" Her mother stepped closer, voice dropping. "Because your father told me about your little disappearing act this morning. If you're planning something foolish, I'm not." "Good." Her mother adjusted a pin in Sable's hair, the movement almost violent. "This alliance saves our pack. It saves your father's position. It saves your position. You should be grateful." Grateful. The word made Sable want to laugh, or scream, or both. "I'm very grateful," she said instead, keeping her voice flat. Her mother studied her for another moment, then nodded. "The ceremony begins at sunset. Don't be late." She swept out, leaving Sable alone with the attendants again. One of them, a kind-faced older female named Lara, caught Sable's eye in the mirror. "Deep breaths, dear. It'll be over before you know it." That's what Sable was afraid of. The ceremonial grounds hummed with tension. Sable stood between her brothers, her gown feeling like a cage. The fabric was too tight, the embroidery too heavy, the whole thing designed to make her look like a prize worth fighting over. She kept her eyes down, studying the intricate patterns in the stone beneath her feet, like they held the secrets of the universe. Anything to avoid looking at the empty space where Harrow's pack was supposed to be. "He's late," Garrett muttered under his breath. Typical alpha posturing. Marcus shifted beside her. Or maybe he's reconsidering. Sable's heart jumped. Could she be that lucky? Could Harrow have somehow found out about last night and decided she wasn't worth the trouble? Her father stood rigid on the platform, jaw tight enough to crack teeth. The pack elders flanked him, looking increasingly uncomfortable as minutes ticked by. Thornwood wolves whispered among themselves, the sound building like storm clouds. "This is humiliating," someone hissed nearby. "What if he doesn't show? What if he's backing out of the alliance?" Sable's mother appeared at the edge of her vision, dressed in silver and blue, face painted with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She caught Sable's gaze and mouthed two words, "Stand straight." Sable forced her spine to straighten. Iris stood with the younger pack members, green eyes wide and worried. When their gazes met, her sister mouthed, "You okay?" No. Sable was absolutely not okay. Her hands were shaking, her stomach was in knots, and she couldn't stop thinking about amber eyes and gentle touches and the stranger who'd made her feel safe for exactly one night. A howl shattered the nervous chatter, long, low, commanding, the kind of sound that bypassed the brain and went straight to the instincts. Every wolf on the ground straightened. Conversations died mid-sentence. Sable's breath caught. "They're here," Garrett breathed. The forest at the edge of the grounds seemed to darken. Then wolves emerged, dozens of them, moving with predatory synchronization that made Thornwood's warriors look soft by comparison. They wore black and silver, faces hard, eyes sharper, battle-tested, dangerous. Harrow's pack had arrived. They spread out along their designated side, filling the space with an energy that felt more like a threat than a celebration. Sable's pack shrank back instinctively, leaving a wide berth between the two groups. A massive male with silver-streaked hair stepped forward, his voice booming across the grounds. "Presenting Alpha Leo Harrow, leader of the Harrow Pack, keeper of the Eastern Territories, and mate-to-be of Sable Thornwood." The crowd parted, and Sable's world tilted sideways. No, because walking toward the platform, surrounded by his warriors like a king approaching his throne, was him, the stranger from the Crimson Den, the male who'd held her gently, who'd made her feel precious, who'd given her one perfect night of choice. That's not possible. Leo was kind. Harrow is a monster. They can't be, but it was him. Same dark hair, same amber eyes, same strong jaw and faint scar through his eyebrow. The only difference was the confidence in his stride, the authority in his bearing, the way every wolf present tracked his movement like prey watching a predator. This wasn't the careful stranger from last night. This was an alpha. The alpha. Sable's knees turned to water. "Stand straight," he hissed. "Don't you dare faint." But Sable couldn't breathe, couldn't think, because the stranger, Leo, that's what she'd called him in her head, was crossing the grounds now. his pack spreading out behind him and his eyes locked on hers. Recognition flared in those amber depths, understanding, and something else, something dark and possessive that made Sable's skin go hot and cold at once. He knows. Oh gods, he knows it's me. Sable's breath came in short, sharp gasps. The ceremonial grounds tilted sideways. Sable. Garrett's voice was urgent now. Pull yourself together. He's here. Harrow. Because it was Harrow. It was definitely Harrow. Stopped at the base of the platform. Up close, he looked exactly the same as he had last night. Tall, broad-shouldered, dangerous. Except now he wasn't wearing simple clothes. Now he was dressed in ceremonial black, with silver embroidery that marked him as an alpha. His pack stood behind him like an army, and Sable realized with dawning horror that everyone was watching them, waiting. Her father stepped forward. Alpha Harrow, welcome! May I present my daughter, Sable Thornwood, your promised mate. Harrow's eyes never left Sable's face. A muscle ticked in his jaw. We've met, he said quietly. The grounds went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Chapter 3. The Scandal. Sable couldn't breathe. No, that's not possible. But it was him. Those amber eyes that had looked at her with such gentleness last night now stared at her with cold recognition. That mouth that had kissed her so carefully was set in a hard line. That voice that had murmured reassurances was deadly quiet. Leo was Harrow. The kind stranger was the brutal Alpha. They were the same person. Her brain fractured, trying to process it. He lied. He lied about everything. His name, who he was, what he... You know each other? Her father's confusion cut through her spiraling thoughts. When did you possibly... Harrow, it was Harrow moved closer. Each step was deliberate, predatory, and Sable's body locked in place like prey facing a wolf. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell him, cedar and smoke, and something darker. Close enough that she recognized the scent from last night. Last night. 2 words. That's all it took to shatter everything. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Sable's mother made a strangled sound. Her brothers turned to stare at her with matching expressions of horror. Her father's face drained of colour. Last night? But that's... You couldn't have... Couldn't I? Harrow took a step closer to Sable, eyes never leaving hers. Tell me, Thornwood, did you really think your daughter spent the night before her wedding taking a walk? The crowd erupted into whispers. Shocked, scandalized, excited. That's not possible, her father sputtered. Sable was here. She was. She was at the Crimson Den. Harrow's voice carried across the grounds now, clear and damning. Your daughter sought me out before our wedding. More gasps. Someone in the crowd said the Crimson Den, like it was a curse word. Her father's face went sheet white. Somewhere behind her, Sable heard her mother's sharp intake of breath. The Crimson Den? Her father's voice climbed. Sable, what is he? Where your daughter went, Harrow continued, his eyes never leaving Sable's face, to bed a stranger before she was given to me. The ceremonial grounds erupted. Voices overlapped. Shocked, scandalized, furious. Sable heard fragments through the roaring in her ears. Can't be true. The night before her ceremony? Disgraceful. But Harrow hadn't told them the truth. He'd made it sound like she'd been with someone else, like she'd betrayed their arrangement with another male. Tell them, Sable's mind screamed. Tell them it was you, that Leo was you, that I didn't betray anyone. But Harrow just watched her with those unreadable amber eyes and said nothing. Is this true? Her father's hand clamped on her shoulder, spinning her around. His face was mottled red with rage. Did you went to the Crimson Den? You ruined yourself? Sable's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. A female voice cut through the chaos. I can confirm it. A tall woman stepped forward from Harrow's side of the crowd. Sharp features, dark hair, cold eyes. She moved with the same predatory grace as Harrow's warriors. I was at the Crimson Den last night, the woman said, her voice carrying easily. I saw a Thornwood female leaving with a male into the private dwellings. Her gaze swept to Sable, and her lip curled. So the bride came to her wedding already ruined? How disgraceful. The crowd exploded again. Thornwood wolves looked horrified. Harrow's pack looked disgusted, offended, like Sable had personally insulted them all. Her father's grip on her shoulder tightened until she gasped. You stupid girl! Do you have any idea what you've done? I, Sable's voice cracked. She looked desperately at Harrow. Tell them. Please, tell them it was you. but he stood there like carved stone, silent and cold. "This is unacceptable," a male voice rang out. A massive wolf stepped forward from Harrow's pack, scarred, grizzled, with a beta's authority rolling off him in waves. "Alpha, the alliance terms specified an untouched mate. She's broken the agreement." "I didn't." Sable started, but her father's hand clamped over her mouth. "Please," her father said, and gods, he was begging. "Alpha Harrow, surely we can renegotiate. My daughter made a foolish, reckless mistake, but the alliance is still valuable. I can offer more territory, more resources." Harrow's pack members bristled. A warrior spat on the ground. "Our Alpha doesn't accept another male's leavings." "She's ruined," another snarled. "Damaged goods. The alliance should be dissolved." The beta, Donovan, Sable's mind supplied distantly, said coldly, "You have every right to refuse this union, Alpha." Sable's mother pushed through the crowd, her face a mask of fury. "You selfish child, you've destroyed everything. Our pack will collapse because you couldn't control yourself for one night." "That's enough." Harrow's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through every other sound like a blade. The crowd fell silent instantly. Harrow's beta, the silver-haired male who'd announced his arrival, stepped forward, voice cutting through the chaos. "Alpha, you don't have to proceed with this. The bride has proven herself unworthy. We can call off the no. One word, absolute." The beta blinked. "But Alpha, she's been with another male. The alliance terms clearly stated." "I don't care what the terms stated." Harrow's voice was ice and steel. "The ceremony continues. She's mine. I don't care what she did or who she was with before tonight. Sable Thornwood belongs to me now, and that's all that matters." Silence crashed down like a physical weight. Sable's brain stuttered. "What?" Harrow turned to face her fully, and the look in his eyes made her stomach drop. Recognition. Possession. Something dark and dangerous that told her she'd made a terrible, terrible mistake. Sable's father sagged with visible relief. The alliance was saved. That's all he cared about. But Harrow's pack looked furious, insulted, like their Alpha had just accepted an unforgivable slight, and Sable stood frozen in the center of it all, watching the male who'd made her feel safe just hours ago claim her like property in front of everyone. "Why?" her mind screamed. "Why won't you tell them the truth?" But Harrow's face was carved granite as he held out his hand to her. "Come here, Sable." It wasn't a request. Her legs moved on their own, carrying her forward. When her hand touched his fingers closed around hers, warm, familiar, and utterly devastating. "The ceremony begins," Harrow announced to the crowd, "and anyone who has a problem with my choice can take it up with me personally." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. No one moved. No one spoke. And Sable realized with crushing certainty, her plan hadn't just failed. It had destroyed her in a completely different way. Because the male she'd given herself to, the stranger who'd made her feel chosen, was the monster she'd been trying to escape all along. And he'd just let everyone believe she'd betrayed him with someone else. Why? Chapter 4. Marked and Bound. An ancient wolf stepped forward from the crowd, grey-muzzled, stooped with age, wearing robes that marked him as a neutral elder. No pack affiliation, just tradition and ceremony. "We gather under the moon's witness," his voice rasped across the clearing, "to bind two souls, two packs in sacred union." Sable was guided, no, dragged, to stand beside Harrow in the center of the ceremonial circle. Her legs shook so badly she thought they might give out. She couldn't look at him, couldn't reconcile the male beside her with the stranger from last night. "Why won't you tell them it was you? Why are you doing this?" But Harrow stood perfectly still, his presence overwhelming even without touching her. Through the corner of her eye, she saw his profile, sharp jaw, that scar through his eyebrow, the same face that had looked at her with such gentleness just hours ago. The elder continued, droning through ancient words about unity and strength and bonds forged in fire. Sable heard none of it. Her mind was screaming too loud. Then Harrow's hand closed around hers. His grip was firm, possessive. Exactly like last night when he'd pulled her close, when he'd... "No, don't think about that. Don't remember." But her body remembered. Remembered those same fingers trailing down her spine, threading through her hair, holding her like she was something precious. "The Alpha will now speak his claim," the elder intoned. Harrow's voice rang out, cold and formal, nothing like the rough warmth from the den. "I claim Sable Thornwood as my mate, my Luna, bound by blood and bond. From this moment until death, she is mine to protect, mine to command, mine to keep. The words felt like chains wrapping around her chest. The Luna will now accept or refuse the claim. Every eye turned to Sable, waiting, judging. She could refuse. Technically, she could. The ceremony would be invalidated, the alliance would crumble, her father would, he'd kill me, or lock me away. Either way, I'd never be free. Her voice cracked. She tried again, barely a whisper. I accept the claim. From this moment until death, I am his. The words tasted like ash. Then let the bond be sealed in blood. Harrow moved behind her, and Sable's entire body went rigid. His hand came up to tilt her head, exposing the curve of her neck. His touch was gentle. Gods! Why was it gentle? His thumb stroking once over her pulse point. She felt his breath against her skin. Warm. Familiar. He kissed me there last night. Right there, just below my ear, and I gasped and... Don't fight it, he murmured, too quiet for anyone else to hear. It'll hurt more if you fight. Then his fangs sank into her neck. Pain exploded through her, sharp, burning like lightning struck directly into her spine. Sable's gasp turned into a choked sound, tears springing to her eyes. Her knees buckled, but Harrow's arm wrapped around her waist instantly, hauling her back against his chest, holding her up, keeping her steady even as he claimed her with teeth and blood. Then the bond snapped. It slammed into Sable's chest like a physical blow, a connection forging between them that was immediate, visceral, permanent. She could feel him suddenly, feel Harrow like he'd crawled under her skin and taken up residence in her bones. His emotions crashed over her. Not cold, not simple. There was anger there, yes, but also something fierce and protective and possessive that made her breath catch. What? But the sensations kept coming. His presence was everywhere, humming under her skin, in her blood, wrapped around her soul. She tried to push it away, tried to build walls, but the bond didn't work like that. It was unbreakable, permanent, forever. Harrow's fangs withdrew, his tongue swept over the wound, some instinct that helped it heal, and then he stepped back. Sable swayed without his support. Blood trickled down her neck, warm and sticky, visible proof of his claim. The bond is sealed, the elder announced. Sable Thornwood is now Sable Harrow, Luna of the Harrow Pack. Let no wolf challenge this union. The crowd erupted in a cheer that sounded hollow to Sable's ears. She touched her neck with shaking fingers. The mark was there, raised and tender, branded into her skin. She was his now, bound, trapped. I tried to escape this. I gave myself to a stranger to escape this, but the stranger had been him all along. The reception was torture. Long tables had been set up at the edge of the ceremonial grounds, laden with food and drink. Music played. Wolves mingled. It should have been celebratory. Instead, Sable stood alone at the edge of the crowd and watched her entire world turn its back on her. Thornwood Pack members avoided her like she carried a plague. Women who'd gossiped with her just last week now turned away when she approached. Males wouldn't meet her eyes. Even the children seemed to sense something was wrong, clinging to their mother's skirts and staring. Her father stood with a group of elders from both packs, deep in discussion about trade routes and territory agreements. He didn't spare her a single glance. The alliance was secured. That's all that mattered. Her mother was worse. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, playing the gracious host, entertaining Harrow's pack females with stories and laughter, acting like Sable didn't exist. I'm an embarrassment, a stain they want to pretend isn't there. Harrow's pack wasn't much better. They were polite. She was their Luna now, marked and bound, but the politeness was cold, distant, like they were humouring her. Can't believe the Alpha accepted her after that, someone whispered behind her. Disrespectful to him, if you ask. What kind of Luna beds a stranger the night before her mating? Sable's hands clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream at them. It was him! The stranger was Harrow. But what good would that do? They wouldn't believe her, and even if they did, he wanted them to think, I betrayed him. A female approached, tall, with sharp features and darker hair pulled back severely, the same one who'd spoken up during the ceremony. She stopped in front of Sable, arms crossed, expression cold. Luna. The title sounded like an insult. I'm Vera, the Alpha's sister. Sable's stomach dropped. Sister, of course. I wanted to make something clear. Vera's voice was low enough that no one else could hear. The pack will follow Alpha Harrow's decision because he's our alpha, but respect is earned, not given. You'll have to prove yourself worthy of being Luna, and after tonight? Her gaze swept over Sable with obvious disdain. You have a long way to climb. She walked away before Sable could respond. Next came Donovan, the scarred beta who'd called her damaged goods during the ceremony. He was more diplomatic, but the coldness was still there. Luna, he inclined his head. If you need anything, let me know. Duty. That's all it was. He'd protect her because Harrow commanded it, not because he wanted to. Thank you, Sable managed. He left without another word. The only bright spot came when Iris finally broke away from their mother's iron grip. She rushed to Sable's side, grabbing her hand. I don't understand what happened. Iris's voice shook. But you're still my sister. Are you okay? Sable's throat closed. She couldn't answer, couldn't find words that wouldn't break her completely. Iris! Their mother's voice cracked like a whip. Come, now. Iris's hand was ripped away. Their mother appeared, face tight with fury, and physically dragged Iris back into the crowd. The glare she shot Sable could have frozen fire. That was it, her last chance to say goodbye to the only person who'd cared. Sable stood at the edge of the reception for what felt like hours, alone, watching. The mark on her neck throbbed with every heartbeat, a constant reminder that she was his now, trapped, bound, forever. She watched Harrow across the clearing, surrounded by pack leaders and warriors. He looked every inch the alpha, commanding, cold, powerful. Nothing like Leo, nothing like the male who'd held her last night. But through the bond, she could feel him. His presence hummed under her skin like a second heartbeat. She tried to push it away, tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. The bond didn't work like that. And worse, he could feel her too, could sense her terror and confusion and the growing hatred burning in her chest. He knows I'm terrified. He knows I hate this, and he doesn't care. We're leaving. Sable jumped. Harrow had appeared beside her without a sound, his hand closing around her elbow. Not rough, but firm. Possessive. Now, don't I get to say goodbye? The words came out bitter. Harrow's amber eyes swept the crowd. To who? Look around, Sable. Who here deserves your goodbye? She looked, really looked, and he was right. Her father was laughing with Harrow's counsel, already counting the benefits of the alliance. Her mother wouldn't even glance in her direction. Her pack had turned on her the moment scandal touched her name. No one was looking at her. No one cared. Come on. Harrow guided her toward the edge of the clearing where horses waited. Sable's father noticed them leaving and hurried over, slightly unsteady from too much wine. Alpha Harrow! Safe travels! And thank you for continuing the alliance despite... He couldn't even finish. Couldn't look at Sable. Harrow's voice could have cut glass. Your daughter is no longer your concern. She's mine, and I protect what's mine better than you ever did. Her father flinched, but he said nothing, just nodded and backed away. They walked away from the reception toward waiting horses and warriors. Sable was numb. Shock had settled over her like a heavy blanket, muffling everything. Once they were away from the crowd, close to the horses but out of immediate earshot, something inside Sable snapped. She ripped her arm from his grip. Why didn't you tell them? Harrow turned slowly. Tell them what? That it was you? Her voice climbed despite her attempts to control it. That Leo was you! That I didn't betray you with some random stranger! Does it matter? Of course it matters, Sable's hands shook. Your pack thinks I'm a whore. My pack thinks I sabotaged the alliance. Everyone thinks exactly what I wanted them to think. The words hit like a slap. Sable stared at him. What? Harrow stepped closer, voice dropping to something cold and controlled. I wanted to see if anyone in your pack would defend you, if anyone valued you beyond your usefulness to this alliance. And no one did. His jaw tightened. Not your father who sold you like cattle, not your mother who dressed you up like a decorative object, not even your sister was allowed to speak for you. You were alone, Sable, completely alone. The truth of it, the horrible, undeniable truth, hit her in the chest. You humiliated me to prove a point. I showed you the truth, that you were never valued there, never loved, never protected. Tears burned behind Sable's eyes. You're a monster. Perhaps. Harrow's hand came up to touch the mark on her neck, his mark, and Sable flinched. But I'm your monster now. You tried to sabotage our mating by bedding a stranger and ruining yourself for me. You just didn't know the stranger was me." His thumb traced the raised bite. "You gave yourself to me freely in that den, Sable, and now you're mine. Bond, mark, and law. I didn't know. Doesn't matter." He dropped his hand. "You chose me in the darkness. Now live with that choice." Sable wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, hurt him, make him feel even a fraction of what she was feeling. But warriors were mounting horses nearby, and Vera was watching with those cold, judgmental eyes. Harrow helped her onto a horse, or rather, lifted her onto it since her legs wouldn't cooperate. His hands on her waist were firm, impersonal. Nothing like last night. Stop comparing, stop remembering. But the bond wouldn't let her forget. It hummed between them, a constant reminder of what they'd done, what he'd tricked her into. Vera mounted her horse nearby, her face a mask of disapproval. Donovan looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. A handful of other warriors completed their group. They left Thornwood territory as the sun dipped below the horizon. Sable didn't look back. There was nothing to look back for. They rode in heavy silence for over an hour. The forest grew thicker, wilder. Thornwood territory gave way to neutral lands, then to something darker. Harrow rode ahead, his back straight, commanding even on horseback. Through the bond, Sable could feel him, and his emotions were more complicated than she wanted to admit. There was anger there, yes, but also something protective, possessive, something that almost felt like, no, don't. She couldn't afford to analyze what he felt, couldn't afford to care. They stopped to water the horses at a small stream. Sable dismounted clumsily, her legs shaky from riding and shock. She moved away from the group, needing space, needing air. "You," Sable turned. Vera stalked toward her, and up close she was even more intimidating. Tall, muscular, with eyes that promised violence. "You stupid bitch." Vera's voice was low, venomous. "Being the useless one tied to my brother after that stunt." She stepped closer. "I'm sure Gregor will have a field day with this. He's been waiting for any weakness to laugh at." "Gregor?" Sable's mind struggled to catch up. "Our enemy, the Alpha who's been trying to take our territory for years." Vera's lip curled. "But then you wouldn't know that, would you? Too busy spreading your legs for strangers to learn anything about the pack you just joined." Heat flooded Sable's face. "I didn't." "Save it." Vera glanced toward Harrow, who was speaking with Donovan by the stream. "The pack elders are already questioning if you're fit to be Luna. I'm sure you'll be discarded soon enough, and I can't wait. He deserves better than you." She leaned in close enough that Sable could see flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Alpha Harrow is my brother. I've watched him build this pack, protect it, sacrifice for it, and now you've made him look weak, made us look weak." Her voice dropped to something almost like a hiss. "I hope whatever you were trying to accomplish in that den was worth it." Vera turned and walked away, leaving Sable standing there with her stomach in knots and her mind spinning. Gregor, enemies, pack politics, things she should know but doesn't. Through the bond, she felt Harrow's attention shift to her, checking on her, maybe, or just monitoring his new possession. Sable touched the mark on her neck, still tender, still throbbing, and felt the full weight of what she'd done crash over her. She'd tried to escape the monster instead. She'd chosen him in the darkness, and now she'd live with that choice for the rest of her life. Chapter 5. The Pack's Rejection. Dawn broke over Harrowtory in shades of gold and crimson, painting the ravine city in colours that should have been beautiful. Sable barely noticed. She sat in the carriage, bruised, exhausted, the mark on her neck still burning, and watched as they descended into what was supposed to be her new home. The den city was carved into massive rock formations, levels upon levels connected by stone stairs and bridges. Impressive. Intimidating. Nothing like Thornwood's sprawling estate. This is where I'll spend the rest of my life. The thoughts settled like a stone in her stomach. We're here. Harrow's was flat. He'd barely spoken to her during the journey, just sat rigid on his horse, jaw tight, radiating cold fury that bled through the mate bond. The carriage stopped in what appeared to be a central square. Pack members were already gathering, drawn by the commotion of their alpha's return. Dozens of them. Then more. Warriors, mothers with pups, elders, all pressing in to catch a glimpse of the new Luna. The whispers started immediately. That's her? The one who bedded a stranger before her mating. I heard she tried to sabotage the alliance. Disgraceful. Sable's hands clenched in her lap. Through the carriage window, she could see their faces. Judgment, disgust, curiosity that felt more like watching an accident than greeting a Luna. The door opened. Donovan stood there, expression carefully neutral. Luna, welcome to Harrow Pack. She climbed out, legs shaking, the crowd pressed closer. Their stares felt like physical touches. Invasive, assessing, finding her wanting. Vera stepped forward and the crowd quieted. She surveyed her pack with that same cold authority Sable had seen at the ceremony. This is your new Luna, Alpha Harrow. Her voice carried across the square. Show respect, but her tone was ice. No warmth, no welcome, just cold obligation. And the pack heard it, heard what she wasn't saying. They bowed, stiffly, reluctantly, faces still full of judgment. Luna. An elderly female's voice was brittle. Welcome. The word felt like an insult. Thank you, Sable managed. Her voice sounded small, lost. Harrow materialized beside her and the crowd shifted, automatic deference to their alpha. Donovan, show the Luna to her chambers. I have pack business to attend to. Of course, Alpha. Then Harrow was gone, disappeared into the crowd without a backward glance. Through the bond, Sable felt his retreat, physical and emotional, shutting her out. He defended me at the ceremony, claimed me in front of everyone, but now he can't even stand to be near me. This way, Luna. Donovan's voice was gentle, sympathetic. The walk through the den city was torture. Pack members lined the streets, not greeting her, just watching. Mothers pulled their children back as she passed, like she might contaminate them. Warriors wouldn't meet her eyes. Female pack members clustered in groups, whispering and laughing behind their hands. Sable caught fragments of conversation. Can't believe he actually went through with it. What kind of female does that the night before? No shame at all. She kept her head high, refused to let them see her crumble. Donovan led her through winding corridors carved into rock, upstairs, across bridges. The den was a maze. She'd never find her way alone. They passed a group of young females, maybe her age, maybe younger. Beautiful, confident, belonging here in ways Sable never would. One of them said, just loud enough to carry. I heard she bedded multiple males. A whole group of them. The others gasped, scandalized and delighted. No, where did you hear that? Vera told my mother. Said the Luna was at the Crimson Den for hours. Who knows how many? Sable's steps faltered. Donovan's hand found her elbow, steadying her. Don't listen to them, he murmured. Vera's spreading rumors about me? His silence was answer enough. They continued walking. More whispers followed them like smoke. Probably planning to run away? The stranger was helping her escape, trapped the alpha with the mate bond. By the time they reached what Donovan called the alpha's wing, Sable felt like her skin was flayed open. Every word had landed. Every judgment had stuck. These are the alpha's chambers. Donovan pushed open heavy wooden doors. Your chambers now. The room was massive. Masculine, dark wood and stone, furs thrown over a bed big enough for 4 people, weapons mounted on walls. It smelled like Harrow. Cedar and smoke and something indefinably him. It should have felt intimate. Instead, it felt like another cage. The alpha has been using the war room, Donovan continued, not meeting her eyes. For sleeping. He said you'd have more space this way. Sable's chest tightened. He's not sleeping here? Not currently, Luna. He can't even stand to share a room with me. I'll leave you to rest. Donovan bowed slightly. If you need anything, ask any pack member. They'll assist you. The hesitation before assist spoke volumes. Then she was alone. Sable sank onto the bed, surrounded by Harrow's scent. In Harrow's space, utterly and completely alone. When she woke, the light had shifted. Late afternoon sun slanting through windows. Her stomach growled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Sable forced herself up, splashed water on her face from a basin, tried to make herself presentable. The ceremonial gown was ruined, blood-stained at the collar from the marking. She found simpler clothes in a chest, too big, clearly meant for Harrow, but better than nothing. She ventured out. The den city was busier now. End of the workday. Families gathering for evening meals. Warriors returning from patrol. Everyone stared. Sable walked with her head high, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Tried to smile at a mother with a pup. The female turned away, pulling her child closer. I'm not a disease. I'm their Luna. But they didn't see a Luna. They saw a scandal, a shame. a female who dishonored their alpha. She turned a corner and nearly collided with a group of young females, the same ones from earlier. "Oh, excuse me, Luna." The word dripped sarcasm. One of them, blonde, pretty, cold-eyed, looked Sable up and down. "Those are the Alpha's clothes. Did you not bring anything of your own, or did you leave in too much of a hurry?" The others giggled. Sable's face heated. "The ceremony was formal. I needed something more practical." "Of course. How practical of you. Very thrifty." The blonde's smile was sharp. "I'm Kessa. These are my friends. We grew up here, unlike some people." The threat was clear. "You're an outsider. You'll always be an outsider. Nice to meet you." Sable tried to move past them. Kessa didn't move. "You know what I heard? I heard you were trying to ruin yourself so the Alpha would reject you. But it didn't work. So now you're stuck here, with a mate who doesn't want you, in a pack that doesn't respect you." One of the other females stepped closer, deliberately bumped Sable's shoulder. Hard. Sable stumbled. "Oops. Sorry, Luna. Didn't see you there." They laughed, started to walk away. Then one of them turned back, looked Sable dead in the eye, and spat at her feet. "Whore." They left, laughter echoing down the corridor. Sable stood frozen, shaking. The spit glistened on the stone between her feet. "This is my life now. This is what I chose when I gave myself to a stranger in the darkness." She made it back to the chambers before that evening. A knock startled her. "Luna?" A young male's voice. "The Alpha has called a pack meeting in the main hall. Your presence is requested. Requested. Not required. Not expected. Requested." Sable steeled herself, changed back into the ceremonial gown despite the bloodstains. It was the only thing that marked her as Luna. Then she followed the young male down through the den. The main hall was packed. Every pack member who could walk was there, crammed onto benches and standing in the back. Sable was led to a spot off to the side, visible but separate. Not at Harrow's side where a Luna should stand. Harrow stood on a raised platform, Vera beside him, Donovan on his other side, the picture of pack leadership. Without her, the noise in the hall was deafening. Conversations, arguments, speculation. Then Harrow raised his hand and silence fell instantly. "I've called this meeting to address concerns about your new Luna." His voice carried to every corner. "I've heard whispers, rumors, disrespect." A male warrior stood, older, scarred. "Alpha, with respect, the pack has concerns. The Luna's behavior before the mating, her indiscretion." Another voice called out. Female. Sharp. "She brought shame to this union. How can we respect her as Luna?" More voices joined in. "She dishonored you, Alpha. You deserve better. Why did you accept damaged goods?" Each word landed like a blow. Sable's nails cut crescents into her palms. She refused to cry, refused to show weakness. Vera stood silent, arms crossed, letting them attack. She could stop this. She's beta. One word from her and they'd quiet. But she's just standing there. "She trapped you with the mate bond. What kind of Luna bed's a stranger?" "Enough." Harrow's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. It cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. The hall fell silent. He stepped forward and his presence filled the space. Alpha authority radiating from him in waves that made even Sable's knees weak. "You want to know about the male Sable was with at the Crimson Den?" His eyes swept the crowd. Predatory, dangerous. "You want to hear about her indiscretion?" The pack leaned in, eager for scandal, for more ammunition. "It was me." The words dropped like stones into still water. Shocked silence. "What?" Someone breathed. "The stranger she bedded the night before our mating was me." Harrow's voice was cold, final. "I was at the Crimson Den. She came to me, and I took what was already mine." Confusion rippled through the pack. Whispers, questions. "But you said the ceremony." "That male was in fact me," Harrow repeated. The hall was silent as death. "She's your Luna. My mate, my choice." His voice dropped to something deadly quiet. "So the next person who calls her a whore, who questions her honor, who so much as looks at her with disrespect, will answer to me, personally. And I promise you won't enjoy the conversation." No one moved. No one breathed. "She's your Luna," he repeated, "and you will treat her as such, or you'll find yourselves exiled from this pack and hunting for a new territory. Am I clear?" Mumbled responses. I said. His voice rose. "Am I clear?" "Yes, Alpha!" The response was immediate, unified, compelled by Alpha authority that couldn't be resisted. Good. Meeting dismissed. The pack filed out, quiet, chastened. Some looked ashamed, others confused. A few shocked glances at Sable, reassessing. Vera looked shocked. Her arms had dropped to her sides, mouth slightly open, like she hadn't expected this. Sable stood rooted to her spot, tears finally spilling over. He'd defended her, publicly, completely. He chose me. He stood in front of his entire pack and chose me. She tried to approach him. Harrow, thank you. I didn't think you'd... I did it for the pack's stability, not for you. His voice was cold, distant. They need to respect their Luna. Can't have discord undermining pack cohesion. The words hit like ice water. But Donovan will show you back to your chambers. You should rest. Where will you? I have work to do. He turned away. Good night, Luna. Then he was gone. Vera and Donovan trailing after him, leaving Sable standing alone in the emptying hall. He'd defended her to the pack, but he couldn't even look at her. That night, Sable lay alone in the massive bed that smelled like Harrow but contained only her. The mate bond hummed under her skin, constant, invasive, connecting her to a male who was somewhere else in the den. She could feel him, awake, tense, working or pacing, or whatever alphas did when they couldn't sleep. You defended me in public, she whispered to the empty room, but you can't even stand to be near me in private. Which version of you is real, Harrow? The one who claimed me in front of everyone? Or the one who can't bear to touch me now? Through the bond, something flickered. Guilt? Longing? She couldn't tell. It was there and gone so fast she might have imagined it. Then nothing, just the steady hum of his presence, distant and cold. Sable curled into herself, surrounded by his scent, but utterly alone, and let the tears come. Chapter 6. Forced Proximity. The knock came early. Too early for Sable's exhausted body and fractured mind. Luna? Donovan's voice carried through the heavy wooden door. The Alpha requests your presence for pack rounds today. Sable sat up slowly, disoriented. Sunlight streamed through the window in thick, golden bands. She'd slept later than she meant to, lost in dreams that twisted between Leo's gentle hands and Harrow's cold eyes until she couldn't tell which was real anymore. The bed beside her was empty, cold. He'd left without waking her. Again. I'll be ready shortly, she called, her voice rough from sleep. Donovan's footsteps retreated down the hallway. Sable dragged herself out of bed, every muscle protesting. The mark on her neck had scabbed over, tender when she touched it, a constant reminder of who owned her now. Through the mate bond, she felt him. Somewhere in the den, alert and focused. Always there, always present under her skin. She couldn't escape him even when he wasn't in the room, and some mornings that felt more suffocating than the mark itself. She dressed in clothes that had been left folded on a chair, practical riding pants, a tunic in deep crimson. Harrow's pack colours. Everything here was his colours, his territory, his rules. She was just another possession marked with his claim. When she emerged into the hallway, Donovan waited with his usual patient expression. Professional, neutral. She wondered if he practiced that face in a mirror. Luna duties? Sable asked, trying to keep the bitterness from her voice. The Alpha wants you to accompany him on rounds. Meet the pack properly, see how things operate here. Donovan started walking and she fell into step beside him. It's traditional for new Lunas to learn their territory. Right? Traditional. Sable's laugh came out hollow, because everything about this mating has been so wonderfully traditional. Donovan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. The pack is adjusting. Last night helped. They saw the Alpha defend you, while simultaneously letting them all think I'm a whore who beds strangers. That too. At least he was honest. They walked through the den city in tense silence. Pack members stopped to stare as she passed. Some nodded respectfully, others whispered behind cupped hands. But no one turned their backs like they had at the reception. No one spat or sneered. Small mercies. Harrow waited near the main gates, deep in conversation with a cluster of warriors. He looked up as she approached, and something flickered in those amber eyes. Recognition? Awareness? It was gone before she could identify it, his expression smoothing into alpha neutrality. Ready? His voice was all command, no warmth, nothing like the gentle tone he'd used in the Crimson Den when he'd whispered against her skin, "As I'll ever be." The first family they visited lived on the eastern edge of the territory, a modest dwelling carved into the ravine wall with a small garden outside. An elderly male answered the door, eyes widening when he saw them. Alpha, Luna. He dipped his head respectfully. I wasn't expecting. Please, come in. Inside smelled like herbs and old wood. The male's mate was weaving at a loom in the corner, her gnarled fingers still quick despite her age. "How are things, Garrett?" Harrow asked, and Sable blinked at the genuine warmth in his voice. "The leg's been acting up again. Rain makes it worse." Garrett gestured to his left leg, which had clearly been broken badly at some point and healed crooked. "But we manage. Can't complain." "You can complain. That's what I'm here for." Harrow pulled a small notebook from his jacket, the kind Sable had seen scholars use, not warriors. "What about the drainage? Last month you mentioned water pooling near your entrance during storms." Garrett's weathered face creased in surprise. "You remember that?" "Of course I remember. I said I'd send someone. Did they come?" "They did. They did. Fixed it right up. Haven't had a problem since." Garrett shook his head slowly. "Not many alphas would remember something so small." "It's not small if it affects your home." Harrow made a note. "I'll have Ray send something for the leg. The pain shouldn't be that bad." They talked for a few more minutes about harvest yields, about a grandson who'd just presented as a strong beta, about the upcoming winter preparations. Harrow listened to every word, asked follow-up questions, remembered details from conversations Sable realized must have happened months ago. This wasn't what she'd expected. Brutal alphas didn't take notes about elderly pack members' aching joints. They didn't remember grandchildren's names or ask about garden harvests with genuine interest. "Thank you for visiting, Alpha." "Luna?" Garrett's mate finally looked up from her weaving, her milky eyes somehow finding Sable despite the cataracts. "Blessings on your union." Outside, Sable glanced at Harrow as they walked toward the next dwelling. "You're good at this." "At what?" "Leading. Actually caring about them." She gestured vaguely back at Garrett's home. "I thought you'd be more..." "Brutal," his lips twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. "I save that for enemies. My pack sees the version of me they've earned. Loyalty gets loyalty, respect gets respect. And your mate gets... what exactly?" The question hung between them. Harrow's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, just kept walking. They visited 6 more families that morning. Each time, Sable watched Harrow transform. With a young couple struggling with a difficult pregnancy, he was gentle, promising Ray's best care, arranging for help with their other pups. With a warrior recovering from injury, he was direct but encouraging. With an Omega who'd been bullied by higher-rank pack members, his voice went cold and dangerous as he promised consequences. "You're different with them," Sable murmured as they walked between dwellings. "Different from how you are with me." "Am I? With them you're patient, kind. With me you're..." She broke off, not sure how to finish. "Honest?" Harrow stopped walking, turned to face her. "I don't lie to you, Sable. I don't pretend. Maybe that's scarier than kindness." Before she could respond, a young mother appeared in the doorway of the next home. She had dark circles under her eyes and a feverish pup clutched against her chest. "Alpha." She dipped her head, then noticed Sable. "Luna, how's Emmy?" Harrow's voice softened instantly, and Sable felt something twist in her chest at the genuine concern there. "The fever won't break." The mother's voice cracked. "Ray gave me herbs 3 days ago, but she just keeps getting worse. I'm so worried I don't know what to..." "May I?" Sable stepped forward before she could think better of it. The mother hesitated, clearly uncertain whether to trust the new Luna who'd arrived under a cloud of scandal. But desperation won. She passed the pup over carefully. The little girl was burning up. Sable could feel the heat radiating through the thin blanket she was wrapped in. She whimpered when Sable touched her forehead, and the sound tugged at something deep in Sable's chest, some instinct she didn't know she had. "She needs cooler air," Sable said gently, rocking the pup slightly the way she'd learned helping in Thornwood's nursery years ago. "And more fluids. Has she been drinking? She won't take water, just cries when I try. Mix honey with it, just a little, make it sweet enough to tempt her." Sable adjusted the blanket, loosening it so the child wasn't so overheated. "And keep a damp cloth on her forehead. Change it every hour so it stays cool. The fever should break in a day or 2 if you can keep her temperature down." The mother's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Luna." "I didn't think, thank you." They left additional herbs from Ray's stores, along with extra honey and clean cloths. As they walked away from the dwelling, Sable felt Harrow's gaze on her. Heavy, assessing. "What?" She didn't look at him. Nothing. But something warm pulsed through the mate bond. Approval? You're good with pups. I used to help in Thornwood's nursery. The memory brought a bittersweet ache. Before my father decided I was too valuable to waste time on such things, before I became just another political tool. She laughed, the sound brittle. I liked it, though. The pups didn't care about alliances or bloodlines. They just wanted someone to hold them when they cried. You can work in ours if you want. Harrow's voice was carefully casual. We always need help, especially from someone who actually knows what they're doing. Sable stopped walking, surprised. Really? You're Luna. You can do whatever you want here. Except leave, she didn't say. Except choose someone else. Except undo this bond that makes me feel you under my skin every second of every day. But the words hung between them anyway, unspoken but understood. The bond pulsed with the truth neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Throughout the day, they kept touching, not deliberately, not at first, but the territory required them to move through narrow spaces, tight doorways, uneven ground, and every accidental brush of skin sent heat cascading through the mate bond like wildfire. Harrow's hand settled on her lower back as he guided her through a doorway carved too small for two people side by side. His palm was warm through the thin fabric of her tunic, and Sable's breath caught at the unexpected gentleness of the touch. Through the bond, she felt his awareness spike, felt him notice her reaction. Their fingers brushed when they both reached for the same scroll. An elder was showing them, pack genealogy records going back generations. The contact lasted barely a second, but Sable felt it everywhere, remembered those same fingers tracing patterns on her skin in firelight, careful and reverent. She tripped on uneven ground between den sectors, her foot catching on a root she didn't see. Harrow caught her elbow instantly, steadying her. His grip was firm but not painful, holding her until she found her balance again. Careful. His voice was low, meant only for her. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. Each touch reminded her of that night, his hands on her body, gentle and sure, making her feel wanted for the first time in her life. And now she couldn't reconcile that memory with the cold alpha who'd let an entire gathering shame her. How can both be real? They were walking through the forest between den sectors when the sunlight shifted. It filtered through the canopy in golden shafts that caught dust motes and made them dance. The quality of light reminded Sable suddenly, viscerally, of the firelight in that private dwelling at the Crimson Den. She glanced at Harrow, really looked at him. The harsh lines of his face softened in the dappled light. His profile turned slightly away as he checked their path, showed the same strong jaw she'd traced with her fingers that night. The same mouth that had kissed her so carefully, asking permission without words. And just for a moment, she saw him again. Saw Leo, the male who'd made her feel safe when she was terrified. The male who'd held her after like she was precious instead of ruined. Harrow caught her staring. What? Nothing. She looked away quickly, but her chest ached. I keep trying to reconcile the male from that night with the alpha who humiliated me at the ceremony. I don't understand how both can be you. Harrow's jaw tightened, a muscle jumped beneath the skin. They're the same person. Are they? Because Leo was kind. He made me feel... She cut herself off. Feel what? Safe, wanted, precious. But she couldn't say those words. Couldn't give him that power. It doesn't matter. It does. Harrow stopped walking, turned to face her fully. They're the same person, Sable. I'm both. The male who held you gently and the alpha who let your pack shame you. Both versions exist. Both are real. I don't understand how. His eyes searched her face. Because one is who I am with you. In private, when it's just us. The other is who I have to be for everyone else. For the pack. For my enemies. He paused. I thought you'd figured that out by now. I'm trying. Try harder. His voice came out rougher than she expected. Then he turned and kept walking, leaving her to follow. By the time they returned to the main den, the sun was setting. Sable's feet ached, her head throbbed from maintaining polite conversation with dozens of pack members, and the mate bond hummed relentlessly under her skin like a second pulse she couldn't escape. Harrow led her to his office. Their office, technically, though she'd barely spent time there. He closed the door behind them with a soft click that felt too loud in the sudden silence. but the tension that had been building all day crystallized into something sharp and unavoidable. Sable turned on him. "Why do you avoid me?" Harrow's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me? You heard me?" Her voice shook, but she forced the words out anyway. "You defended me to the pack, made them show me respect, but you won't even sleep in the same room. Every night you disappear to God's know where. I wake up alone in that massive bed, and through this bond," she pressed a hand to her chest. "Through this bond, I can feel you awake somewhere else in the den. Feel you deliberately staying away. What am I supposed to think? I thought that's what you wanted." His voice was carefully controlled, too controlled. "Space, distance. You're terrified of me, Sable." "I'm not. You are." He moved closer, and the bond pulsed between them, sharp, insistent. "You were so scared of Alpha Harrow that you tried to ruin yourself for me with a stranger. Went to a lawless den full of rogues and propositioned the first male who sat at your table. Do you have any idea what could have happened to you?" Sable's hands clenched at her sides. "I was desperate. You were reckless, dangerous, willing to give yourself to anyone, literally anyone, just to escape being mine." His voice dropped, turned rough. "What if it had been another male, Sable? What if I wasn't at the Crimson Den that night? What if some brutal rogue had taken you up on your offer?" The question hit like a physical blow. Sable went quiet, realizing she hadn't let herself think about that. Hadn't considered what might have happened if Harrow hadn't been the one to find her. "You would have given yourself to some random stranger just to escape me." Harrow's voice turned rough, almost pained. "That's how much you feared being my mate. That's how desperate you were to avoid this bond." "I didn't know you." The words burst out of her loud and raw. "All I knew were the rumors. That you were brutal. That you killed your mates. That your pack lived in terror of you. What was I supposed to think?" "And you believed them?" His jaw clenched so hard she heard teeth grind. "Believed every word. Believed I was a monster who murdered females for fun. Can you blame me?" "No." The word came out flat. Final. "But I can't forget it either. Can't forget that you were willing to do anything, risk anything, to avoid being mine. That's not something I just..." He cut himself off, turning away. Sable felt tears burning her eyes. "That's not fair. You cultivated that reputation. You wanted people to fear you. I wanted enemies to fear me." Harrow spun back around and his eyes blazed. "Not my mate. I never wanted my mate to look at me the way you did at that ceremony. Like I was going to hurt you. Like I was a nightmare made real." The raw honesty in his voice broke something inside her. Through the bond, she felt it. The hurt he'd been carrying, carefully hidden beneath layers of alpha authority. He'd been wounded by her fear, by her belief in the rumors, by the fact that she'd chosen a stranger's bed over taking even the smallest chance on him. "Then show me," Sable whispered, stepping closer. "Show me the male from the Crimson Den, the one who made me feel safe, the one who held me like I mattered. Because that's the male I chose. That's the male I'm still trying to find underneath all this." She gestured between them, all this anger and hurt and misunderstanding. Harrow stared at her. Something raw and desperate flickered in his amber eyes, something that made her breath catch. Then he moved. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, hands coming up to cup her face. His palms were warm against her cheeks, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. "You chose me in the darkness," he breathed, "and I've been yours since that moment. Since you walked into that den looking terrified and brave and so damn beautiful, I forgot how to breathe." Then he kissed her. Not rough, not claiming like the mark had been. This was desperate, like he'd been starving for her, for weeks, and could finally let himself have it, like he'd been holding back and the dam had finally broken. Sable kissed back, remembering that night when he'd been Leo, when she hadn't known who he was, when all that mattered was the way he touched her like she was precious instead of property. The mate bond flared between them, heat and need and something deeper that terrified her. She felt his emotions flooding through the connection. Desire, yes, but underneath it was longing, loneliness. The desperate need to be seen as more than just the brutal alpha everyone expected. His hand slid from her face to her waist, pulling her closer until they were pressed together hip to chest. Sable's fingers found his hair tangled in the dark strands and he groaned against her mouth. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her lips. "Tell me and I will." "Don't stop." They stumbled backward, hit the desk with a thud that sent papers scattering to the floor. Sable didn't care. Harrow lifted her onto the desk's surface, stepped between her legs, and she wrapped her arms around his neck to pull him closer, closer, closer. "I've wanted this," he breathed against her throat. "Wanted you. Every night I stayed away because I thought you needed space, needed time, thought I was doing the right thing. You were wrong, I know." His laugh was rough. "I'm wrong about a lot of things when it comes to you." They made it to the couch somehow, a tangle of limbs and desperate kisses and hands relearning familiar territory. Harrow's touch was gentle but urgent, reverent but needy, like he was trying to memorize her all over again. Sable felt safe, finally, like that night in the Crimson Den when she hadn't known who he was but had trusted him anyway. That feeling had been real. This was real too. "This is who I am with you," he whispered against her skin, his hands trembling slightly as they traced patterns on her ribs. "Not the cold alpha, not the brutal reputation, just me, always just me." "I know," she pulled him closer. "I know now." After, they lay tangled together on the couch. Sable's head rested on Harrow's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow from its frantic pace. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder, gentle circles, figure eights, occasionally brushing over the mark he'd left on her neck. The bond hummed contentedly between them, satisfied, at peace for the first time since the ceremony. "I'm sorry." His voice was quiet, raw. "For humiliating you at the ceremony. I thought." He paused and she felt him gathering words. "I thought I was showing you the truth about your pack, that they never valued you, but I hurt you in the process, made everything worse instead of better." Sable's throat tightened. She pressed her face against his chest, breathing him in. "I'm sorry too, for believing you were a monster, for being so scared of you that I was willing to risk everything to escape." "I am a monster." His chest rumbled under her cheek. "Just not with you, never with you." She smiled despite herself, despite everything. "My monster then, yours." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Always have been. From the moment you sat at that table in the Crimson Den, you've been it for me." They fell quiet. The fire in the hearth crackled softly. Outside the office, the den city was settling into evening. Distant voices, footsteps, the normal sounds of pack life. Sable's eyes drifted closed. Safe. Warm. Finally at peace. "Maybe this can work," she thought drowsily. "Maybe we can figure this out." She felt Harrow's breathing even out beneath her. Felt him relaxing into sleep, the bond between them humming with contentment. Neither of them noticed the footsteps that paused outside the office door. Vera stood in the hallway, hand raised to knock. She'd come to discuss border patrol schedules, routine alpha business that needed Harrow's attention. But through the door, she heard voices. Low, intimate. Her brother's voice, softer than she'd ever heard it. Always have been. Vera's hand dropped slowly to her side. She stood there for a long moment, listening to the silence that followed, imagining what was happening on the other side of that door. Her jaw clenched so hard her teeth ached. He was choosing her, over his own blood, over his sister who'd stood by him through everything, over the pack's reputation and the political consequences of that scandal. Vera turned and walked away, her boots silent on stone. Her mind churned with thoughts she couldn't quite name, jealousy twisted with anger, twisted with something darker she didn't want to examine too closely. He deserves better than her, she thought as she disappeared down the corridor. We all do, her hands clenched into fists. Chapter 7, The Friend. 3 weeks of happiness felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for someone to push. But Sable tried not to think like that anymore. Tried to trust what she felt through the mate bond. Harrow's contentment when he looked at her, the warmth that pulsed between them during pack rounds, the way he reached for her in sleep like he needed to confirm she was still there. They'd fallen into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Mornings meant pack business, visiting families, resolving disputes, checking on the sick and elderly. Harrow was patient and thorough, and Sable found herself learning more about leadership by watching him than she'd ever learned from her father's cold lectures about duty. The pack was accepting her. Slowly, yes, with wariness that hadn't completely faded. But mothers smiled at her now when she helped in the nursery, Warriors nodded respectfully instead of looking through her. Even Donovan had started making dry jokes in her presence, his version of friendship, apparently. "You're laughing more," Harrow said one morning as they walked back from a particularly chaotic visit to a family with 6 rambunctious pups. "Am I?" Sable glanced at him. His hair was dishevelled from where the youngest pup had grabbed it, and there was a suspicious stain on his shirt that looked like mashed berries. He looked nothing like the cold, brutal Alpha from the rumours. He looked happy. "You are. I like it." He caught her hand, laced their fingers together. "Suits you better than fear." The mate bond hummed between them, warm and steady and right. Sable squeezed his fingers. "I'm trying." "You're doing more than trying." He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. "You're thriving here. The pack sees it. I see it." "Even Vera?" His expression flickered. "Vera's adjusting," which wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement. Vera had been coldly professional for weeks, polite when she needed to be, distant otherwise. But she hadn't caused any more problems, hadn't made any more pointed comments about Sable's worthiness. Sable told herself that was progress. So when Vera appeared in the main hall that evening with an almost smile on her face, Sable felt a flutter of hope. "Brother Luna," Vera nodded to each of them. "I have a request." Harrow looked up from the supply manifest he'd been reviewing. "What kind of request?" "I'd like to invite a friend to visit. Lyria." Vera's tone was carefully casual. "We grew up together. I thought it might be nice for Luna to meet her, make some connections outside, just pack business." Sable blinked. Was Vera trying to help her? Trying to give her a friend? "Lyria?" Something shifted in Harrow's expression. "I haven't seen her in years. Not since, that summer before you turned 18. "Exactly. It's been too long." Vera's smile widened slightly. "She's been asking about the pack, about you. I think a visit would be good. Reconnect old bonds." Her gaze slid to Sable. "And it would be good for Luna to have female friends here. Someone closer to her age than Ray." The jab was subtle, reminding Sable that she hadn't exactly made friends among the pack females. Most were still wary of her, and the few who'd warmed up were significantly older. But still, a friend, someone who might actually want to spend time with her. "I'd love that," Sable heard herself say. "Thank you, Vera." "Wonderful." Vera's smile was all teeth. "I'll send word she's welcome anytime this week. This will be good, I promise." After Vera left, Harrow was quiet. Sable felt something through the bond, unease, concern. "You don't want her to come?" Sable asked. "It's not that." He frowned at the manifest without really seeing it. "Lyria and I grew up together. She was Vera's closest friend, but we haven't spoken in years. It'll just be odd." "Why did you stop talking?" "No particular reason. People drift apart." But something in his voice suggested there was more to it than that. Sable didn't push. She told herself it didn't matter, told herself Vera was genuinely trying to help, that Lyria would be a friend, that everything would be fine. The cliff edge felt a little closer. Lyria arrived 3 days later in a cloud of expensive perfume and silk that probably cost more than Sable's entire wardrobe. She was stunning, the kind of beautiful that made Sable immediately aware of every flaw in her own appearance. The way her hair never quite laid smooth, the scattering of freckles across her nose that she'd tried to hide as a teenager, the fact that her curves were softer where Lyria's were sleek and toned. Tall and willowy, with honey blonde hair that fell in perfect waves past her shoulders, striking green eyes lined with some cosmetic that made them look enormous, and the kind of effortless elegance that suggested she'd never had an awkward moment in her life. She moved like water, fluid and confident, like the world existed to admire her. "Vera!" Lyria embraced Vera like they were sisters, all warmth and genuine affection. Then her gaze slid past to where Harrow stood, and her smile transformed into something else entirely, something predatory wrapped in sweetness. "Alpha Harrow!" Her voice was silk and honey. "Gods, look at you! You've gotten even more impressive." She crossed to him without hesitation, no deference, no wariness, just easy familiarity. Her hand settled on his arm, fingers curling around his bicep. The touch lingered. Too long, too familiar. "It's been so long, I've missed you." Through the mate bond, Sable felt Harrow's discomfort, a spike of awkwardness, irritation at being cornered socially, but his expression remained polite. "Lyria, welcome to Harrow Pack." Still so formal. Lyria's laugh was musical, practiced. You never change, do you? Remember when we used to... She cut herself off, glancing at Sable like she'd just noticed her existence. Oh, and you must be the Luna. The pause before Luna was deliberate, just long enough to make Sable hyper-aware of every rumour that had followed her here. I've heard so much about you. Lyria's gaze swept over Sable, cataloguing, assessing, dismissing. What an interesting way to start a mating. Heat crawled up Sable's neck. Of course Lyria knew. Everyone knew about the Crimson Den scandal. It's nice to meet you. Sable forced the words out. Likewise. Lyria's attention was already back on Harrow, like Sable was furniture that had briefly spoken. You'll have to show me around, Alpha. I'm sure so much has changed since I was last here. Remember that overlook by the eastern ridge? We used to watch the sunset from there. Donovan can give you a tour. Harrow's voice was carefully neutral. But I'd rather have you. Lyria's fingers trailed down his arm before finally releasing him. Remember that summer by the lake? The four of us, you, me, Vera and Marcus, we had such fun. You taught me to swim in the deep water. Something flickered in Harrow's expression. Memory. Not warmth exactly, but acknowledgement. That was a long time ago. Not that long. Lyria's smile was knowing. Intimate, like they shared secrets Sable would never understand. Vera watched the interaction with a small smile playing at her lips. Satisfied, like everything was going exactly as planned. Why don't we have dinner together tonight? Vera suggested. The four of us. Catch up properly. Perfect. Lyria finally looked at Sable again, and her smile sharpened. I can't wait to hear everything about how you two met. I'm sure it's quite the story. Dinner was slow torture disguised as polite conversation. The dining hall felt too warm, too crowded, despite there only being four of them at the high table. Lyria had changed into a dress that clung to every curve, deep emerald that made her eyes luminous, cut low enough to show the swell of her breasts, high enough to reveal long legs when she walked, and she'd positioned herself next to Harrow, not across from him, where conversation would be easier. Right next to him, close enough their shoulders nearly touched when she leaned in to speak. Which she did. Constantly. Do you remember the time we snuck out to the hunting grounds? Lyria's laugh was too loud, drawing attention. Her hand settled on Harrow's forearm like it belonged there. We got in so much trouble. Your father was furious. I remember you almost got eaten by a bear. Harrow's tone was dry, but not unkind. Not pushing her away. You saved me, though. Lyria's fingers traced patterns on his arm. Sable watched, frozen, as those perfectly manicured nails drew circles on her mate's skin. My hero! I never properly thanked you for that, did I? Through the mate bond, Sable felt Harrow's discomfort sharpen, felt his desire to extract his arm without causing a scene. But he didn't move, didn't create distance. Why isn't he pushing her away? That was 12 years ago. Harrow finally shifted, reaching for his wine. The movement dislodged Lyria's hand, but she didn't seem bothered, just smiled like she'd scored a point in some game Sable didn't understand the rules to. Luna, Lyria's attention swung to Sable with the precision of a blade. How are you adjusting to pack life? It must be so different from... Thornwood, was it? It's fine, everyone's been welcoming. How generous of you to say that, considering the circumstances of your arrival. Lyria's smile was sweet, poisonous. I mean, the scandal must have made things difficult. Did you worry Harrow might reject you? Sable's hands clenched in her lap under the table. Sable's doing excellent work with the pups, Harrow cut in, his voice firm. Final. The mothers trust her. The nursery's better organised than it's been in years. How sweet. Lyria's expression suggested it was anything but. Playing with children. Very maternal. Very domestic. The words should have been compliments. They sounded like insults. Vera watched with that same small smile, sipping her wine like she was enjoying an entertaining performance. Before Harrow could respond, before Sable could figure out how to defend herself, Vera steered the conversation elsewhere. More childhood stories, more inside jokes, more casual references to shared experiences that made Sable feel like an outsider at her own dinner table. Remember when Marcus dared you to jump off the waterfall? Lyria was practically draped over Harrow's side now, her breast pressed against his arm as she leaned in. You broke your wrist and tried to hide it for 3 days because you didn't want anyone to know you'd been reckless. I was 16 and stupid. You were brave. Her hand found his shoulder, squeezed. You've always been brave. Through the bond, Harrow's irritation was a living thing, sharp and growing sharper. But he was trapped by politeness, by social expectation, by the fact that Lara was his sister's oldest friend, and making a scene would be worse than enduring her attention. Sable understood that intellectually, but watching another woman touch her mate, watching those perfect hands on his arm, his shoulder brushing his collar, felt like swallowing glass. By the time dinner ended, Sable's face ached from forcing smiles. Her jaw hurt from clenching, and the mate bond buzzed with Harrow's relief that the meal was finally over. "Walk me to my quarters," Lara asked him, batting her eyelashes, actually batting them. "I'm still getting familiar with the layout. Donovan can... Please?" Her hand found his arm again. "For old time's sake?" Harrow glanced at Sable. Through the bond, she felt his reluctance, his desire to refuse. But social convention won. Fine. Briefly. Sable watched them leave, Lyria's hand still on his arm, her body angled toward his like a flower seeking sun. Vera remained behind, and when Sable looked at her, she was smiling. "They've always been close," Vera said conversationally. "Some people thought they'd end up mated before pack politics got in the way." The words landed like stones in Sable's stomach. "Really?" "Oh yes, they were inseparable as teenagers. Lyria's family wanted the match. Everyone assumed..." Vera waved a hand vaguely. "But Harrow had other obligations, other considerations. Like being forced to mate me for an alliance?" Sable's brain supplied helpfully. "Still." Vera stood, smoothing her dress. "It's nice to see them reconnect. They're comfortable together, natural." Her gaze slid to Sable. "Some things just fit, you know? Shared history, shared understanding. Lyria understands this pack, this life, in ways that... Well, never mind. In ways you never will," the unspoken words finished. Vera left, and Sable sat alone at the high table, staring at her untouched dessert. Through the mate bond, she felt Harrow, frustrated, tired, wanting to return to her. The emotions were clear, honest. But the image of Lyria's hand on his arm burned behind her eyes anyway. The next 3 days were worse. Lara was everywhere. At breakfast, sitting in what had become Sable's usual seat beside Harrow. "Oh, was this yours? I'm so sorry, I didn't realise." But she didn't move. At lunch, appearing in the main hall with questions that somehow only Harrow could answer. At dinner, wearing dresses that got progressively more revealing, necklines that plunged, slits that climbed, fabric that clung like a second skin. She accidentally appeared at Harrow's office when he was working. "I was just walking by and saw the light, thought I'd say hello." Then she'd stay for an hour, reminiscing about childhood adventures while Sable tried to work on nursery schedules at the side desk and felt increasingly invisible. "Remember that summer by the lake?" Lyria's voice would drift over, honey-sweet and intimate. "When we snuck away from everyone and just talked. You told me about wanting to be more than just a warrior, wanting to lead with wisdom instead of just strength." And Harrow would respond, briefly, politely, but he'd respond. Acknowledge the shared memory, give Lyria what she wanted. At meals, Lyria made sure to sit beside him. Her hand would find his arm when she laughed, which was often and too loud. She'd lean in close to whisper comments meant only for him, her lips nearly brushing his ear. "You're stronger than you were," she said one evening, her hand resting on his bicep, squeezing. "I can feel it. Have you been training more?" "Same as always." Her fingers trailed down his arm. "Well, it shows. You look." Her gaze travelled over him with open appreciation. Powerful. Through the bond, Sable felt Harrow's discomfort spike into genuine irritation. But he didn't shake her off, didn't tell her to stop touching him, just endured it. "Why won't you push her away?" Sable wanted to scream. "Why are you letting her do this?" But she knew why. Lyria was Vera's guest, his sister's oldest friend. Making a scene would create pack drama. So Harrow stayed polite, stayed distant, and let Lyria's touches land because refusing would be worse. Sable tried to be mature about it, tried to trust the mate bond, which showed her clearly that Harrow wasn't interested, wasn't encouraging Lyria's attention, was actively uncomfortable with it. But doubt crept in anyway, insidious and poisonous. Vera's comments didn't help. "Lyria fits here so naturally, doesn't she?" Vera said over tea one afternoon. They were in the Solar, a bright room overlooking the training grounds where Sable had been trying to enjoy a rare moment of peace. It's like she never left. She's very comfortable. Well, she grew up here, knows everyone, understands pack dynamics without needing to learn. Vera's smile was sweet. She's much more suited to this life than... She cut herself off like she'd said too much. Never mind. Than you, the unspoken words screamed. They were close? Sable heard herself ask, hating that she needed to know. Oh, incredibly, inseparable from age 12 to 18, everyone assumed they'd mate eventually. Vera sipped her tea delicately. My mother adored Lara, called her the daughter I should have had sometimes. Each word was a precisely placed knife. But pack politics got in the way, Vera continued. Laria's family wasn't strong enough politically. Harrow needed a mate who could bring alliance benefits. So, she shrugged. They went their separate ways, but you can see they still have that connection, that natural chemistry. Sable's tea had gone cold in her hands. What are you saying? Nothing. Vera's expression was innocence itself, just observing, making conversation. She stood, smoothing her skirt. But it's nice, isn't it? Seeing two people who understand each other so completely, who have history and shared experiences, and she trailed off meaningfully. Well, you know. She left, and Sable sat alone staring into her teacup. Was everything we shared meaningless? Was I just convenient? The mate bond he got stuck with because of politics? The thoughts wouldn't stop. Couldn't stop. That evening, Lara wore a dress that was barely decent, crimson silk that matched Harrow's pack colours, with a neckline that plunged past her sternum and slits that showed flash after flash of toned thigh. Her hair was loose and artfully tousled, like she'd just rolled out of someone's bed. She spent dinner whispering to Harrow, her hand on his thigh under the table. Sable could see her arm positioned that way, could see Harrow's jaw tighten, but he didn't move it. Didn't stop her. Why won't you stop her? After dinner, Sable escaped, couldn't stand another moment of watching Lara touch her mate, hearing Vera's poisonous comments, feeling invisible in her own pack. She walked without direction, needing air, needing space. Found herself near the main hall and heard voices inside. Laria's laugh. Harrow's low response. Sable looked through the doorway and her heart stopped. Lara was practically draped over Harrow, her body pressed against his side, one hand splayed on his chest over his heart, the other playing with the edge of his collar. She was whispering in his ear, close enough her lips nearly touched his skin, close enough it looked like she was kissing him. Harrow's shoulders were tense, his jaw tight. Through the mate bond, Sable felt his discomfort clearly. He wanted to extract himself, wanted distance, was actively searching for a polite way to end this. But he wasn't pushing her away, wasn't stepping back or removing her hands, just standing there, enduring it. Across the hall, Vera leaned against a pillar, watching. When her gaze found Sable's, she smiled. That knowing, triumphant smile. Sable turned and ran. She made it back to their chambers before the tears came, before her chest cracked open and the pain spilled out. She slid down the door, pressed her hands over her mouth to muffle the sobs. I'm not enough. I'll never be enough. She's everything I'm not. Beautiful, confident, comfortable here. She has history with him. She fits in ways I never will. Through the mate bond, Harrow's awareness shifted toward her, questioning, concerned, probably feeling her distress through the connection. But Sable couldn't face him, couldn't look at him when all she could see was Lyria's perfect face, Lyria's perfect body, Lyria's perfect hands all over what was supposed to be hers. She curled into herself on the floor and cried like she hadn't cried since her wedding night. Like maybe she'd made a terrible mistake trusting this, trusting him. Harrow found Vera in the library 2 hours later. She was reading by the fire, picture of innocence, legs tucked under her, book open in her lap, face relaxed and pleasant. She looked up as he entered, smile automatic. Brother, I thought you were with... What game are you playing? His voice was ice. Absolute zero. Vera's smile faltered. I'm sorry? Lyria. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. Predatory, controlled fury, barely leashed. You brought her here to cause problems between me and my mate. I brought my friend to visit. I didn't realize that was suddenly a crime. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this is innocent. I know exactly what you're doing. Vera closed her book carefully. Set it aside. I don't know what you mean. You don't approve of Sable. You think she's beneath me, a political liability. His hands clenched at his sides. So you brought Lara, beautiful, familiar with all our shared history, to make Sable feel inadequate, to drive a wedge between us, to remind me of what I supposedly should have had if politics hadn't gotten in the way. I simply thought, enough! The Alpha command rolled through the room like thunder. Books rattled on shelves, the fire flickered, and Vera actually flinched, her body responding to the compulsion before her mind could stop it. I'm not playing games with you. You're my sister and I love you, but I know manipulation when I see it. I've seen you do it to others for years. I just never thought you'd do it to me. Vera stood, book falling forgotten. She made you look weak. Made our entire pack look weak. That scandal followed us everywhere. Other packs whisper about it, question your judgment, question your strength. And you don't even care because you're so obsessed with her. She's my mate. She's a disaster. Vera's control shattered completely. She tried to sabotage your mating by bedding a stranger the night before the ceremony. And now you're choosing her over everything. Over your reputation. Over pack politics. Over your own sister. I'm choosing my mate. Harrow's voice dropped dangerously quiet, the tone that meant he was past anger into something colder. As I should. As any alpha should. As you should respect. She's not worthy of you. That's not your decision to make. They stared at each other across the library, years of sibling bonds straining against this new divide. The fire crackled. Somewhere distant, a wolf howled. Finally, Harrow spoke, each word deliberate, controlled, final. Listen carefully, Vera. You are my beloved sister. I've protected you since we were children. Indulged your tempers, given you power and position in this pack that most females never get. But if you continue this behavior, if you continue to disrespect my mate and undermine my authority, I won't mind that you're my sister anymore. Vera's face went pale. You're threatening me? I'm promising you. He stepped closer, towering over her. You're acting spoiled. Entitled, like you have the right to dictate who I bond with, who I love, who I choose to spend my life with, and I will not tolerate it. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Happiness? A mate who actually cares about me instead of just my title? His voice cracked slightly. Do you know what Sable gave up when she mated me? Everything. Her pack, her family, her entire life, and she's trying so hard to make this work despite starting under a cloud of scandal. She helps in the nursery, visits families, learns pack names and histories, and you want to destroy that because it doesn't fit your vision of what my mate should be. She's using the bond to manipulate you. Get Lara out of my territory, the words cut like blades. Tomorrow, or I'll have Donovan escort her out myself. Am I clear? Vera's eyes filled with tears, hurt, rage, humiliation, all mixed together. You're choosing her over me, your own blood. I'm choosing my mate, the way it should be, the way it's always supposed to be. His jaw clenched. And if you can't accept that, if you can't show Sable the respect she deserves as my Luna, then maybe you need to reconsider your place in this pack. The threat hung in the air. Exile. He was threatening his own sister with exile if she didn't fall in line. Vera nodded stiffly, too choked with emotion to speak. Harrow turned and left, the door closing behind him with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slam. Vera stood alone in the library, shaking, her fists clenched so hard her nails cut crescents into her palms. How dare he? How dare he speak to her like that? She'd stood by him through everything, their father's death, the challenges to his leadership, the years of building this to something strong. And he was going to throw her away over some female who'd brought nothing but scandal and shame. She sank back into her chair, mind churning with thoughts that twisted darker with each passing second. He says he slept with her at the Crimson Den, that he was the stranger she bedded, but I was there that night. I saw her leave with a male, but I didn't see his face clearly through the crowd. What if he's lying? What if he's protecting her reputation because of the mate bond? What if she really did betray him with some random rogue and he's just too blinded by the connection to see it? The thought took root, grew. She's manipulating him, using the bond to control him, making him choose her over his own family. I need to show him the truth, show him who she really is, show him she's not worth destroying our relationship over. An idea formed, terrible, Tom. unforgivable. But Vera was past caring about forgiveness. She needed to save her brother from himself, even if he hated her for it. The next day, Vera visited Ray's healing den. The old healer was grinding herbs, filling the space with bitter scents. She looked up as Vera entered. "What can I do for you, Beta? I've been having terrible nightmares." Vera made her voice small. "Vulnerable. Can't sleep more than a few hours. It's affecting my duties. I need something to help." Ray's eyes were sharp despite the cataracts clouding them. "Nightmares? What kind?" "Just darkness. Falling. Nothing specific, but they wake me up terrified." Vera hugged herself. "Please, I'm exhausted." Ray studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "I'll mix you something mild. Sleeping herbs should help." "Actually," Vera bit her lip, playing the part perfectly. "Could you make it stronger? The nightmares are really bad. I'm desperate." Ray hesitated, then sighed and reached for a different jar. "Fine, but only use this when you truly need it. It's powerful. Will knock you out for hours." "Thank you." Vera took the packet, feeling its weight, enough to render someone unconscious for half a night. "I really appreciate this." She tucked it into her pocket and left, heart pounding. Dinner that evening was a formal affair. Pack leaders, warriors, the inner circle. Sable sat next to Harrow, but there was visible tension between them. She'd barely spoken to him all day, and through the bond he could feel her hurt, her doubt, her withdrawal. Lyria was there too, wearing another obscenely revealing dress, this one in midnight blue with a back cut so low it was barely decent. She kept trying to catch Harrow's attention, but he'd been deliberately cold since his confrontation with Vera, barely acknowledging her presence. Vera played server, moving between guests with wine, a good hostess helping her pack. When she reached Harrow, she poured carefully, and in the process of setting the pitcher down, tipped the sleeping herbs into his cup. The powder dissolved instantly, invisible in the dark wine. Harrow drank without noticing, complimented the vintage absently while talking to Donovan about border patrols. 20 minutes later, mid-conversation, he swayed slightly. "You all right?" Donovan's hand shot out to steady him. "Fine. Just..." Harrow rubbed his face. "Tired. I think I need to lie down. It's been a long day." He stood, stumbled slightly, caught himself on the table. Sable moved to help him, concern flooding through the bond. But Vera was faster, appearing at his other side, voice all concern. "Let me, Luna." Her tone was gentle, understanding. "You're needed. The kitchen staff has questions about tomorrow's meal planning. Something about the stores. I'll make sure my brother gets to bed safely." Sable hesitated, clearly torn between duty and staying with Harrow, but he was already leaning heavily on Vera, eyes half closed. "Go," he mumbled. "I'm fine. Just need sleep." Sable's face crumpled slightly, but she nodded. "All right, make sure he's okay?" "Of course." Vera's smile was reassuring, trustworthy. Sable hurried toward the kitchens. Vera supported Harrow as they made their slow way toward his chambers. "Vera?" His words were slurring. "What's happening?" "Shh. You're just exhausted, all that stress with Lyria visiting. Let's get you to bed." She got him into the chambers with difficulty. He was a large male and mostly dead weight. She laid him on the bed and began stripping him methodically. Removed his shirt, his boots, his pants, left him naked under a thin sheet positioned artfully. His eyes were closed, breathing deep and even, completely unconscious. Vera stood over him for a moment, her chest tight with emotions she couldn't name. This was her brother, her blood, and she was about to betray him in a way that could never be undone. But Sable had to go, had to be revealed for what she was. Vera steeled herself and went to find Lyria. Lyria was in her guest quarters, brushing her hair in front of a mirror. She looked up as Vera entered without knocking. "That was quite the dinner. Your brother barely looked at me. Did something happen?" "He's unwell." Vera's voice was flat. "Asking for you." Lyria's eyes widened. "What?" "He's in his chambers. Said your name. Wants to see you." Vera's jaw clenched. "Come, quickly." Lyria stood, confused but intrigued. "But now." The command in Vera's voice made Lyria move. She followed Vera through the corridors to Harrow's chambers. Vera pushed the door open without ceremony. "Get in the bed with him." Lyria stopped, stared. "What?" "You heard me." Vera's voice was cold, hard. "Get in the bed. Now." "I don't understand. You've been trying to seduce him for days, touching him, wearing those dresses, making it clear you're available. Here's your chance. Or will you all talk?" Something calculating crossed Lyria's face. She looked at Harrow's unconscious form, naked, vulnerable, completely at her mercy. A slow smile spread across her lips. Well, she reached for the laces of her dress. When you put it that way. She stripped quickly, no shame or hesitation. Naked, she climbed into the bed beside Harrow's unconscious form, draped herself across his chest, wrapped her leg over his hip, positioned herself exactly the way Vera directed, intimate, compromising, unmistakably sexual, perfect. Vera arranged Lyria's hair to spread across Harrow's shoulder, made sure the scene looked exactly how she wanted it to look. Stay there, don't move until I come back. How long will he be out? Hours. Vera's smile was sharp, more than enough time. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Then she went to find Sable. Sable was in the kitchens reviewing inventory lists with the head cook, some issue with the grain stores that needed immediate attention. She was trying to focus, but her mind kept drifting to Harrow. Through the bond, he felt wrong, muffled, like he was deeply asleep, but also too deeply. Unnaturally so. Luna. Vera's voice from the doorway. Sable looked up. Something in Vera's expression, something cold and triumphant, made her stomach drop. I think you should check on the Alpha. He wasn't feeling well. Is he okay? Worry spiked through Sable's chest. Why don't you see for yourself? Vera's smile was small. Chapter 8. Invasion. Sable threw open the door to their chambers and froze. The world stopped. Harrow lay in their bed where they'd made love just that morning, where he'd whispered promises against her skin, completely naked, and draped across his chest like she belonged there, also naked, skin touching skin in ways that made Sable's vision narrow to a pinpoint, was Lyria. Her perfect blonde hair spilled across his shoulder, her leg was thrown over his hip, her hand rested possessively on his chest, right over his heart. Through the mate bond, Sable felt him, unconscious, deeply, unnaturally unconscious, confused, wrong. Something was wrong. But all she could see was betrayal. All she could see was another woman in her mate's arms, naked, intimate, there. Harrow? Her voice broke on his name. He stirred slightly, eyelids fluttering. Sable? What? His words slurred. Lyria woke too, blinking in apparent confusion. What's happening? Footsteps behind Sable. Vera peered at her shoulder, and when Sable looked at her, she was smiling. That same small, knowing, triumphant smile. Oh my! Vera's voice dripped false sympathy. How unfortunate. Looks like my brother was having the fun of his life with someone better suited to him. Sable couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The mate bond buzzed with Harrow's confusion, but her eyes showed her something else entirely. I tried to warn you, didn't I? Vera stepped beside her, voice gentle and cruel at once. That my brother doesn't really want you, but you forced yourself on him, made him feel oblated through the mate bond. Sable's voice cracked. He said what? That he cared? Vera laughed, the sound like breaking glass. He was being polite. You're his political mate, nothing more. A duty, an obligation. She gestured toward the bed. Now he's finally with someone who understands him, someone worthy. Harrow was trying to sit up, movements sluggish and uncoordinated. Sable, wait. Something's wrong. Can't think. Lyria pulled the sheet up to cover herself, looking between them with wide eyes. I don't understand what's— Get out! Sable screamed at her. Get out! Get out! Get out! Lyria scrambled from the bed, grabbing her dress from the floor. She fled past them, naked and clutching fabric. Sable backed away from the doorway, away from the bed, away from the image that was burning itself into her brain. Harrow and Lyria, naked and entwined in their bed. No. Where are you going to run? Vera followed her into the hallway, voice mocking. Sable spun to face her, tears streaming down her face. Stop! Just stop! I heard you! I understand! I don't belong here! Finally, she gets it. Vera's smile widened. I'll leave, okay? Sable's voice broke completely. I'll leave and you can have your brother back, and he can be with whoever he wants, and you can all pretend I never existed. Oh, it's too late for that. Vera's tone turned sharp. You'll always be a stain on his reputation, a reminder of the scandal, the Luna who betrayed him before the ceremony and trapped him in a bond he never wanted. Then what do you want from me? Sable screamed. The sound echoed through the corridor, raw and desperate. Vera opened her mouth to respond. Howls pierced the night, not normal pack howls. These were battle cries, warning cries. the kind that made every wolf's instincts scream danger. The sound of fighting erupted from somewhere outside. Snarls, shouts, the clash of bodies colliding. Alarm bells started ringing throughout the den, the kind that only rang during attacks. Vera's triumphant expression shattered into shock. "No, that's not possible! Vera! Luna!" Donovan's voice bellowed from down the corridor. He appeared at a dead run, already half-shifted, fangs visible. "Get to the safe room now! We're under attack!" "Attack?" Vera's face went white. "By who?" "Grekor!" Donovan grabbed both their arms. "His forces breached the northern border. They're inside the territory. Move now!" Sable and Vera stared at each other, their fight forgotten, everything forgotten in the face of this new threat. An explosion rocked the den, somewhere close, too close. The walls shuddered. Women and children were screaming, warriors shifting and running toward the sounds of battle, the organized chaos of a pack under siege. "Come on!" Donovan pulled them toward the safe room. They made it 3 corridors before the fighting found them. A Grekor warrior burst around the corner, huge, scarred, eyes wild with battle lust. He saw them and grinned. Charged. Donovan met him mid-leap. They collided in a tangle of fur and fangs and violence. The corridor was too narrow for proper fighting. They crashed into walls, broke furniture, blood spraying. "Run!" Donovan roared between attacks. "Get to safety!" Another explosion. Closer. The floor buckled beneath them. Sable grabbed Vera's arm, her sister-in-law, who just destroyed her, who she should hate, and pulled her away from the fighting. They ran together, stumbling over debris, choking on smoke. The den was chaos, fire in some sections, warriors everywhere, screams and howls and the clash of combat. They got separated from Donovan in the madness. Took a wrong turn trying to avoid a group of fighting wolves and ended up in a courtyard they didn't recognize. "The safe room," Vera panted. "It's this way, I think." Well, what do we have here?" The voice came from the shadows, deep, amused, cruel. A massive male stepped into the moonlight and Sable's breath stopped. He was huge, easily the largest wolf she'd ever seen, more than 7 feet tall, broad as a doorway, muscles coiled like a predator built for violence. Scars crisscrossed his face and bare chest. His eyes were pale grey, almost white, and they promised pain. 6 warriors flanked him, all of them nearly as large, all of them radiating the same barely leashed violence. Vera went absolutely white, stopped breathing, her hand clutched Sable's arm so tight it hurt. "Grekor," she whispered. Grekor's smile was terrifying, all teeth, no warmth. "Hello, Vera. Surprised to see me?" His gaze swept over them both, assessing, cataloguing, planning. "I know you're the dear sister." His voice was conversational, pleasant, which made it worse somehow. Alpha Harrow's beloved blood, the one he'd moved mountains to protect. He stalked closer, unhurried. "I also know I won't exactly win this invasion. Your brother's pack is too strong, his warriors too well trained. But see," his smile widened, "I don't need to win." He stopped 10 feet away, close enough to attack, far enough to make them feel the threat hanging. "I just need a hostage, someone valuable enough that your brother will negotiate. We'll trade territory, resources, power." His head tilted, and the moon goddess decided to be generous tonight. His eyes slid to Sable, and his smile turned vicious. "Not only do I get the sister, but I get the legendary new wife? The one who fucked another man before her wedding?" He laughed, the sound echoing off stone walls. "The scandal that's been spreading through all the territories? Oh, I've been dying to meet you, Luna." Sable's hands clenched. Fear and rage warred in her chest. "You're famous, you know." Grekor took another step closer. "Every pack from here to the coast has heard the story. How Alpha Harrow's promised mate bedded a stranger the night before the ceremony. How he claimed her anyway. Some call it love. Most call it weakness." His eyes gleamed. "Tell me, was it worth it? Ruining yourself? Humiliating your mate?" "Fuck you," Sable spat. Grekor laughed harder. "Oh, I like her. She's got spirit." He looked at his warriors. "Harrow always did have interesting taste." Beside Sable, Vera was trembling, not with fear, with fury. Her hands were shifting, claws erupting. "Don't," Sable whispered. "He's too strong." But Vera wasn't listening. She shifted mid-breath, bones cracking, fur exploding from skin. Her wolf form was beautiful, sleek and powerful, all controlled violence. She launched at Grekor with a snarl that could have woken the dead. She was fast, well-trained, fierce. Grekor didn't even look concerned. He waited until she was mid-leap, jaws open to tear his throat. Then he moved, faster than something that large should be able to move. His hand shot out, caught her by the throat midair, and threw. Vera's wolf form flew backward like a child's toy, slammed into a tree with a crack that made Sable's stomach turn. She crumpled, didn't move. Blood matted her fur. Then she started shifting back, the involuntary shift that came with unconsciousness or severe injury. Bones cracking, fur receding until Vera lay naked and bleeding at the base of the tree, whimpering. The fierce Vera. Gregor's voice was mocking. Your brother always said you were a warrior, but you're just a pup playing at battle. He started walking toward her, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. Let's see if Alpha Harrow loves his sister enough to trade territory for... No! Sable threw herself between Gregor and Vera. Gregor stopped, raised an eyebrow. Oh! Don't you dare touch her! Sable's voice shook, but she stood her ground, arms spread wide, protecting the female who'd just destroyed her happiness. The disgraced Luna has a spine, Gregor looked amused. Interesting. Don't. Vera's voice was weak, pained. Don't do this. Shut up, Sable snapped at her. Then to Gregor, you want a hostage? Take me. Leave her alone. Gregor tilted his head, studying her. She's been nothing but cruel to you from what I hear. Brought another female to seduce your mate. Poisoned you against your bond. Why protect her? Sable didn't have a good answer. Didn't have time to process why she was doing this. Because she's my mate's sister, she said finally. Because she's Pack, because I won't let you hurt her. Behind her she heard Vera's sharp intake of breath. Shock. Gregor studied them both for a long moment. Then he smiled. How touching, but I think I'll take you both. Sable didn't think, just reacted. She shifted, the change taking her faster than it ever had before, driven by desperation and rage. Her wolf form burst free, and she launched at Gregor with everything she had. She wasn't trained like Vera, wasn't strong or experienced or skilled, but she fought like her life depended on it, because it did. Her jaws found his arm. Bit down, tasted blood. Gregor actually laughed. Oh, this is entertaining! He let her attack, let her claw and bite and snarl, toying with her like a cat with a mouse. She managed to slash his face, claws raking across his cheek, drawing 3 lines of blood. His smile dropped. Cute, but playtime's over. He caught her mid-lunge, one hand closed around her throat, cutting off air. He slammed her into the ground so hard she saw stars. Pain exploded through Sable's body. She shifted back involuntarily, gasping, unable to breathe. Leave her alone! Vera was crawling toward them despite her injuries. Leave her. Touching. Really. Gregor's foot came down on Sable's chest, pinning her. But futile. He looked at his warriors. Take them both. The sister and the wife. 2 hostages are better than 1. Harrow will give us anything to get them back. His men moved forward. Rough hands grabbed Sable, hauled her up despite her struggles. Another warrior picked up Vera like she weighed nothing. No! Sable fought, but she was too hurt, too exhausted. One of them hit her, hard enough that her vision greyed. To the carriage, Gregor ordered. Now! Before Alpha Harrow realizes what he's lost. In the distance, too far, too late, a roar split the night. Sable! Vera! Harrow's voice. Raw with panic and fury. Sable tried to scream. One of the warriors clamped a hand over her mouth. They were dragged through the burning den, past fighting wolves toward the outer gates where a carriage waited. Black, unmarked, built for speed. Gregor threw Sable in first. She hit the floor hard, rolled. Then Vera was tossed in beside her, bleeding, barely conscious. Warriors climbed in after them, 4 of them, all huge, all armed. The carriage lurched into motion. Sable scrambled to the small window, pressed her face against the bars. Through it, she saw the den city burning, fighting everywhere, chaos. Then she saw Harrow. He burst into the courtyard where they'd been, too late. His face was wild, desperate. He was only half dressed, moving like he was still fighting off whatever drug had knocked him out. He looked around frantically. Then his eyes found hers through the carriage window. The anguish that slammed through the mate bond nearly stopped her heart. Raw, devastating, like something inside him was being ripped out. Sable! He started running toward them, but they were already too far, moving too fast. The carriage careened around a corner and Harrow disappeared from view. Sable collapsed back against the wall, breath coming in sobs. Beside her, Vera groaned, trying to sit up. Don't move, Sable whispered. You're hurt. Why? Vera's voice was weak. Confused. Why did you protect me? Sable looked at her sister-in-law, at the female who drugged her brother and staged that scene with Lara, who'd tried to destroy Sable's mating, who'd succeeded in breaking her heart. I don't know, she admitted, but you're Pack, and I couldn't let him take you alone. Vera's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, gods, I'm so sorry. Save it. Sable turned away, pressing her hand to her chest where the mate bond throbbed. Right now we need to survive. We can deal with everything else later. If there was a later. One of the warriors grinned down at them. Get comfortable, ladies. It's a long ride to Gregor's territory. Sable's last coherent thought before exhaustion and pain dragged her under was of Harrow's face. The devastation in his eyes. The anguish bleeding through their bond. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry I doubted you. Then darkness took her. Chapter 9. Enemy Territory. Sable woke to pain and motion. Every muscle in her body screamed. Her ribs ached where Gregor had slammed her into the ground. Her wrists burned where rope cut into skin. And underneath it all, the mate bond pulsed. Harrow's presence distant but alive, frantic with worry that bled through the connection like an open wound. The carriage rattled over rough terrain, each bump sending fresh agony through her battered body. Sable forced her eyes open, squinting against dim light filtering through barred windows. Vera sat across from her, already awake, staring. Her face was a mess. Bruises blooming purple across her cheek, blood dried in her hair, one eye swollen nearly shut. But she was conscious, alive. 4 of Gregor's warriors filled the rest of the space, huge males with scars and cold eyes. One was picking his teeth with a knife. Another watched them with a look that made Sable's skin crawl. Look who's awake, Knife Picker grinned. The famous Luna, thought you'd sleep through the whole trip. Sable didn't respond, just tried to sit up straighter, wincing as her ribs protested. We've been travelling for hours, Vera's voice was hoarse, raw. Maybe 4? 5? They stopped once to water the horses but didn't let us out. Where are we? Heading north toward Gregor's territory. Vera's bound hands clenched in her lap. We're probably halfway there by now. One of the warriors leaned forward. Keep talking, ladies. I like hearing fear in pretty voices. Fuck off, Sable spat. He laughed. Oh, she's got spirit. Alpha's going to enjoy breaking that. Vera's jaw tightened. Something shifted in her expression. Guilt? Shame? Something raw and complicated. The carriage hit a particularly vicious bump. Sable bit back a cry as pain lanced through her side. Might have cracked a rib when Gregor threw her down. Through the bond she felt Harrow. He was moving, hunting. The emotions bleeding through were primal, rage and terror and desperate determination. He's as coming for us, Sable thought. He'll find us. She had to believe that, had to hold on to it. Another hour passed in tense silence. The warriors dozed or talked amongst themselves in low voices. Sable tried not to think about what waited at the end of this journey, tried not to remember Gregor's hands on her, his breath hot against her face. Vera hadn't stopped staring at her. Finally, her voice barely above a whisper, "Why did you do that?" Sable's eyes found hers. Do what? Protect me. Vera's voice cracked. Stand in front of me when Gregor was going to. She couldn't finish. Tears welled in her one good eye. I've been horrible to you. Brought Lara specifically to hurt you. Made you doubt your mate. Made you feel worthless. I've done nothing but make your life miserable since you arrived. You should have let him take just me. You could have maybe escaped. Sable looked at her sister-in-law, at the female who drugged her own brother and staged that scene with Lara, who'd smiled while Sable's heart shattered. You're Harrow's sister. He loves you. I couldn't let Gregor hurt you. Even after everything I've done? Even then? Vera's face crumpled. Tears spilled over. I don't understand you. Sable gave a sad, tired smile. I'm part of this pack now, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, and pack protects pack. That's what Harrow taught me. One of the warriors snorted. How touching. Too bad you're both dead anyway. Vera ignored him. Her gaze stayed locked on Sable. I need to tell you something. Save your strength. No, listen. Vera leaned forward despite the pain it clearly caused. I drugged him, my brother. I drugged Harrow and put Lara in his bed. The world tilted. Sable's breath caught. What? The sleeping herbs. I got them from Ray. Slipped them into his wine at dinner. The words tumbled out in a rush, like Vera had been holding them back, and they finally burst free. I wanted to drive you away. I thought you were manipulating him, that you weren't worthy. I was so sure he was just covering for you, that you really had betrayed him at the Crimson Den." Tears streamed down Vera's battered face. "I convinced myself he was being manipulated, that the mate bond was controlling him, that you'd ruined him and he was too blind to see it." A sob broke through. "I've been a fool, a spoiled, bitter fool, and now we're both going to die because of my stupidity." Sable couldn't breathe, couldn't process. "So Harrow didn't do anything. He was drugged unconscious. He would never betray you." Vera's voice turned desperate. "You have to believe that. Whatever you saw, whatever you think happened, he was unconscious. He didn't choose Lyria. He didn't want her. It was all me, all my doing." Relief crashed through Sable so hard it hurt. Harrow hadn't betrayed her, hadn't chosen someone else. The image that had been burning in her mind, him and Lyria naked and entwined, was a lie, a setup. But underneath the relief was something else, something that made her chest ache. "I was jealous." Vera's voice dropped to a whisper. "My whole life, my brother has protected me, given me everything, position, power, respect. He's been my shield against everything." She laughed bitterly. "And then you came, and suddenly he needed protecting, from scandal, from political fallout, from other packs questioning his judgment. I blamed you for making him vulnerable." "I did make him vulnerable." "No." Vera shook her head violently. "He chose vulnerability. He chose you. He chose to value love over reputation, his mate over pack politics, his own happiness over what I thought was best for him." Her voice cracked. "And I couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand that he'd pick you over everything, over his reputation, over even my comfort. I wanted you gone. I wanted him to see you weren't worth it. But I was wrong, so fucking wrong." Silence stretched between them. The carriage rattled on. Outside, wolves howled, Grecor's warriors patrolling. "I'm a terrible sister," Vera whispered. "You're a sister who loves her brother." Sable's throat was tight. "You were trying to protect him. You just went about it in the worst possible way." "That doesn't make it okay." "No, it doesn't." Sable met her eyes. "But if we survive this, we can figure out how to fix it. Together." Vera's laugh was broken. "If we survive this, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. To both of you. I swear it." One of the warriors stretched, yawning. "You two done with your heart-to-heart? Because we're stopping soon and I'm getting hungry." The carriage began to slow. They stopped in a clearing as twilight painted the sky purple and gold. The carriage door was yanked open and rough hands dragged them out. Sable hit the ground hard, her bound hands making it impossible to catch herself. Vera landed beside her with a pained grunt. "On your feet." A warrior hauled Sable up by her hair. She bit back a scream. The clearing was full of Grecor's forces, maybe 30 warriors, several carriages, horses stamping and snorting. They'd made camp for the night. Fires were being lit, food unpacked. "Let them piss! Then throw them back in the carriage," Grecor's voice carried from across the clearing. "We move at dawn." The warriors shoved them toward the tree line. Sable stumbled, her legs weak from hours in the carriage. Vera caught her elbow, steadying her. "I can't believe I'm helping the female I tried to destroy," Vera muttered. "I can't believe I'm letting you." But Sable leaned on her anyway. They did their business as quickly as possible, the warriors watching with leering grins. When they emerged back into the clearing, one of them, drunk already, reeking of cheap whiskey, grabbed Vera's arm. "The sister is pretty." His fingers trailed down her arm possessively. "Maybe we should have some fun before we ransom her. What do you think, boys?" The other warriors laughed, encouraged him. Vera tried to pull away. "Don't touch me. Who's going to stop me? Your brother's not here." He yanked her closer, his other hand going to her waist. "I've always wondered what it would be like to fuck an alpha's sister." Sable didn't think. She lunged at him despite her bound hands, head-butted him with everything she had. Stars exploded across her vision, but she felt his nose crunch, felt warm blood spray. He stumbled back, shocked. "You little bitch!" She kicked him hard, right between the legs. He went down. The other warriors burst out laughing. "Looks like the disgraced Luna has some fight after all." One of them grabbed Sable from behind, arms pinning hers. "Fine, we'll start with you then. Let's see if you're as spirited in bed as you are fighting." "I wouldn't," Vera snarled, trying to get to Sable. Another warrior caught her, held her back. "What are you going to do?" You can barely stand! Let her go! Stop! The single word cut through the chaos like a blade. Gregor emerged from his tent, shirtless, a wineskin in one hand. His pale eyes swept the scene, assessed, calculated, decided. What did I say about the hostages? His voice was deceptively calm. The warrior holding Sable shifted nervously. Just having some fun, Alpha. Fun. Gregor took a long drink. Interesting definition. He stalked closer, each step deliberate. They're worth more to me unharmed. Alpha Harrow will pay any price for his sister and his mate intact. But if you damage them, he smiled coldly, he might decide revenge is more satisfying than negotiation. The warrior released Sable reluctantly, but Gregor wasn't done. His gaze swept over them both, lingering. Though I suppose some entertainment could be arranged carefully. He approached Sable, reached out to touch her face. So fierce. I can see why Harrow marked you despite the scandal. There's fire under that scared exterior. His fingers brushed her cheek. Sable jerked away, skin crawling. Vera, emboldened by their earlier conversation, by something shifting between them, stepped between them. Over my dead body, will you touch her, Gregor? Sable's heart stopped. Vera was protecting her. The same female who'd tried to destroy her was now standing between her and danger. Gregor raised an eyebrow, amused. Well, the sister has had a change of heart. I heard you hated the new Luna, heard you thought she was beneath your precious brother. Vera spat at his feet. She's my Luna, my brother's mate, and you won't lay a finger on her while I'm breathing. Something warm bloomed in Sable's chest. She moved to stand beside Vera, shoulder to shoulder. And you won't touch her while I'm breathing. Both females, once enemies, now side by side, united. Gregor looked between them and laughed, the sound echoing off trees. How touching. Female solidarity. Unfortunately, he moved faster than Sable could track. His hand shot out, struck Vera across the face so hard she flew backward. Hit the ground and skidded. I don't need you both unharmed. Just alive. He advanced on Sable, backing her toward his tent. And I think it's time I found out what Alpha Harrow sees in his scandalous little mate. Let's see if you're worth all this fuss. He grabbed her, started dragging her toward the tent. Sable screamed, fought, but he was too strong. His grip was iron, bruising. No! Vera tried to get up, vision swimming from the hit. Sable! Hold her, Gregor ordered. Two warriors pinned Vera, forcing her to watch. Let's see what makes you so special. Gregor's breath was hot against Sable's face. Let's see if you scream as pretty as I think you will. Howls erupted from the forest. Multiple close, surrounding them. Gregor froze. Alpha, a warrior ran into the clearing. We're surrounded! Harrow's forces? They found us! Wolves burst from the tree line on all sides, dozens of them. Harrow's pack in full battle formation, and at the head of the charge, a massive black wolf with eyes that glowed like amber fire. Harrow. The battle was instant, brutal. Harrow's warriors slammed into Gregor's forces like a wave of fur and fangs. The clearing erupted into chaos. Snarls, screams, the wet sound of flesh tearing. Harrow shifted mid-run, the change taking him so fast it was nearly instantaneous. 1 second a wolf, the next a man, naked, furious, every muscle coiled with barely controlled violence. Gregor! His voice was thunder. Gregor spun, still gripping Sable. A cruel smile spread across his face. There you are, right on schedule. He yanked Sable against his chest, arm around her throat. His other hand produced a knife from nowhere, pressed the blade to her side, just above her hip. One more step, Harrow, and I'll gut her like a fish. Harrow froze mid-stride. Through the mate bond, Sable felt his terror, raw and all-consuming. Don't you fucking dare! His voice dropped to something deadly quiet, promising violence beyond imagination. There it is. Gregor's breath stirred Sable's hair. The great Alpha Harrow, brought to his knees by a female. How pathetic! How... Movement behind Harrow. A Gregor warrior taking advantage of his distraction. The male lunged, claws extended, going for Harrow's unprotected back. Sable saw it happening, saw the trajectory, saw Harrow focused entirely on her, unaware of the threat. She didn't think. She threw her weight backward, slamming her head into Gregor's face, felt his nose crunch. His grip loosened. Sable broke free, stumbled, saw a fallen blade on the ground, grabbed it with bound hands. The warrior was mid-lunge. Going for Harrow's spine, Sable threw herself between them, drove the blade up with everything she had. It sank into the warrior's chest, between ribs. Straight to the heart, his eyes went wide, surprised, then empty. He fell. Sable stood there shaking, still gripping the blade buried in his chest. Blood. So much blood soaked her dress, her hands warm and sticky. I killed him. I just killed him. Sable! Harrow's roar snapped her back to the present. She looked up, saw Gregor recovering, wiping blood from his face, saw him reaching for her again, and saw Harrow launch himself at the other alpha. The fight was vicious, primal, two alphas going for blood. They collided mid-air, Harrow's momentum driving them both to the ground. Gregor was huge, experienced, deadly. But Harrow fought like something beyond rational thought, like every ounce of rage and fear and desperation had been distilled into pure violence. They rolled, slashed, bit, blood flew. Harrow got him pinned, hands around Gregor's throat. You touched what's mine. She was already, Gregor choked, ruined. Harrow's claws extended, sank into Gregor's throat and ripped. Gregor died choking on his own blood, eyes wide with surprise that he'd lost. Around them, the remaining Gregor warriors fled or surrendered. Harrow's pack had won. Harrow shifted back to human form, covered in blood, chest heaving. His eyes found Sable across the clearing. She was still standing there, frozen, blood-soaked, shaking. He ran to her. Sable! 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 Look at me! His hands cupped her face, forcing her to focus. Baby, look at me. Her eyes found his. I killed him. I killed that male. You saved me. You saved my life. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Gods, I thought I lost you. I thought, when he had that knife, I'm okay. I'm here. But she was shaking so hard, her teeth chattered. I'm so sorry. His voice cracked. What you saw with Lara, that wasn't real. I was drugged. I would never know. Vera told me. I know. Sable buried her face in his neck, breathing him in. I'm sorry I doubted you. Don't apologize. He pulled back just enough to look at her face. Are you hurt? Did he? No, you got here in time. The mate bond sang between them. Safe, 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 mine safe. The relief flooding through was almost painful. Brother, Harrowed. Vera limped toward them, supported by Donovan. Her face was a mess, one eye swollen shut, but she was standing. Before you thank me or worry about me. Vera's voice was steady despite the pain. You need to know the truth. Vera, this can wait. No, it can't. She met his eyes. It was me. I drugged you. I put Lara in your bed. I tried to drive Sable away because I thought she was making you weak. The clearing went silent. Every warrior within earshot turned to stare. Harrow's face went blank. You? What? I thought I was protecting you. Tears streamed down Vera's face. But I was wrong. So fucking wrong. And I almost got Sable killed. Got us both killed because of my stupidity. She squared her shoulders despite the pain it caused. I know what I did was unforgivable. I deserve exile, imprisonment, death, whatever punishment you... No. Sable stepped forward, putting herself between Harrow and Vera again. She made a mistake, a terrible one. But she also protected me tonight, stood between me and Gregor even though she was injured, tried to fight him for me. That doesn't make up for what I did, Vera whispered. No, it doesn't, but it's a start. Sable looked at Harrow. She's your sister. She loves you. She was trying to protect you the only way she knew how, and she went about it horribly, but now she knows. She understands. Sable's hand found Harrow's. Isn't that enough? Harrow looked between them, the mate he'd almost lost, the sister who'd betrayed him. His jaw worked, emotions warring across his face. Finally, we'll discuss your punishment later, Vera. Right now, I just need to get my mate and my sister home. The journey back was slower, more careful. Harrow refused to let Sable ride alone, kept her in front of him on his horse, arms wrapped around her like he was afraid she'd disappear. She was exhausted, traumatized, covered in someone else's blood, but alive. Vera rode nearby with Donovan. She kept glancing at Sable, something raw and grateful in her expression. When their eyes met, Vera mouthed, "Thank you." Sable nodded. They'd been riding for maybe an hour when it hit. A wave of dizziness so strong Sable swayed in the saddle. Nausea rolled through her stomach. Exhaustion crashed over her like a physical weight. Harrow, I don't feel well. His arms tightened around her. We're almost home, just hold on. No, I mean, she touched her stomach instinctively. Something's different, something's... Harrow went completely still. Sable? Through the mate bond she felt it, a third presence. Tiny, new, barely there but definitely there, a life growing inside her. Her eyes went wide. Are we? Harrow's hand covered hers on her stomach. Through the bond, the realization crashed through both of them at once. You're pregnant? His voice cracked. God, Sable, you're pregnant? She couldn't finish, couldn't process. How long? He pulled the horse to a stop, turning her to face him. When? I don't know, maybe... That night in his office, or... She did the math, felt her face heat. We haven't exactly been careful. A laugh burst from him, joyous, disbelieving. Then his expression shifted to something fierce, protective beyond measure. You fought Gregor, you killed a warrior while pregnant with our child. His voice turned rough. Never again. You hear me? Never again. Harrow, I almost lost you both tonight. He pressed his forehead to hers. I can't. I won't. You won't have to. She kissed him softly. We're safe now, all three of us. Behind them, Vera had overheard. Her face crumpled, fresh tears falling. I almost killed my niece or nephew, But Sable just reached out, caught her hand. But you didn't. We're all here. We're all alive, and we're going home. As they resumed the journey, Harrow's hand never left Sable's stomach. And through the mate bond, she felt his emotions. Terror at how close he'd come to losing them, joy at the new life they'd created, and a love so fierce it nearly stopped her heart. They rode toward home, toward healing, toward a future none of them had expected, together. Chapter 10. Consequences and Confessions. They arrived back at Harrow territory as dawn painted the sky in shades of bruised purple and gold. The pack was waiting. They must have felt it through the pack bonds. Their alpha returning, emotions running high. Warriors lined the entrance. Mothers clutched pups. Elders stood silent and assessing. Hundreds of them gathered to see if their leaders had survived. Harrow helped Sable down from the horse, his hands lingering on her waist. Through the mate bond, his emotions were a storm. Relief, rage, fierce protectiveness, and underneath it all, joy so sharp it hurt. He couldn't hide it, didn't even try. Donovan was the first to approach. Alpha, Luna, thank the gods you're... He stopped, eyes widening. Alpha, your emotions through the pack bond. What happened? Harrow's hand moved to Sable's stomach, protective, possessive. The Luna is pregnant. Silence. Absolute shocked silence. Then the pack erupted. Cheers, howls, celebration. Warriors shifted and howled at the sky. Mothers wept with joy. Even the elders smiled, deep lines crinkling around their eyes. An heir, someone shouted. The Luna carries the Alpha's pup. Long live the Luna. Sable stood frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden outpouring. These were the same pack members who judged her weeks ago, whispered about her, treated her like dirt. And now, come on. Harrow's arm wrapped around her shoulders. Let's get you to Ray. As they walked through the celebrating crowd, Sable noticed the damage. Buildings with scorch marks, rubble in places, bandaged warriors. Gregor's attack had left wounds. How many did we lose? Harrow's voice was quiet. 3 warriors, 2 civilians. Donovan's face was grim. Could have been worse. We pushed them back before they reached the nursery. Harrow's jaw clenched. Gather the names. I want to honor them properly. They reached the healing den where Ray waited. Ancient eyes, sharp despite her age. She ushered Sable inside, shooing Harrow out. Alphas hovering don't help pregnancy examinations. Wait outside. The door shut in his face. Ray's gnarled hands were surprisingly gentle as she examined Sable, pressed carefully on her abdomen, checked her pulse, looked into her eyes. Well? Sable's voice was small. Is it real? Am I really? Oh yes, Luna. About 3 weeks along, I'd say. Very early still. Ray smiled, a rare expression on her weathered face. The pup is strong. I can feel it. Sable's hand moved to her stomach, flat, unchanged. But underneath, I'm going to be a mother. You are. Ray's expression turned serious. And given everything you went through tonight, the fighting, the trauma, the stress, it's a miracle the pup held on. The moon goddess must favor you, Luna. The door cracked open. Vera stood there, hesitant. May I come in? Sable nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Vera entered slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. She looked terrible, bruises covering half her face, one arm in a makeshift sling, moving like every step hurt. But her eyes were clear, focused. Sorry. I almost cost you everything. Vera's voice was barely above a whisper. She sank onto a stool across from Sable. Your mate, your life, and now, your child. Her hands twisted in her lap. If Gregor had succeeded, if he'd... She couldn't finish. I would have been responsible for killing my brother's pup. My own blood. But you didn't. Sable's throat was tight. We survived. We're all here. Because you protected me. You stood between me and Gregor when I just finished destroying your happiness. Vera's laugh was broken. I don't understand you. Good, then we're even, because I don't understand you either. Vera looked up, surprised. Before Sable could say more, the door banged open. Harrow stood there, face carved from stone. Vera, come with me, now. It wasn't a request. Harrow's office felt too small for the three of them and all the tension crackling between. He closed the door, turned to face his sister. And the Alpha authority rolling off him made even Sable's knees weak. Do you understand what you did? His voice was deadly quiet. You drugged your Alpha. You attempted to destroy my mating bond. You put Sable in danger, which put our child in danger. Vera's head bowed. I know. Do you? Harrow slammed his hand on the desk. Papers scattered. You could have gotten her killed. You could have started a war within our own pack. My mate was kidnapped, tortured, forced to fight for her life while carrying my pup because your actions weakened us at exactly the wrong moment. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. His voice rose, cracked. You could have taken everything from me, Vera. Everything that matters. My mate, my child, my... He broke off, turning away. Through the bond, Sable felt his emotions, rage and hurt and terror that he'd almost lost them. I'm so sorry, brother. Vera's voice was thick with tears. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. About Sable, about your bond, about what you needed. I was jealous and bitter, and I nearly destroyed you because of it. Harrow paced like a caged animal. The pack is calling for your punishment. Some want you exiled. Some want you stripped of your beta position and cast out as rogue. Vera stood tall, despite the tears streaming down her face. I'll accept whatever you decide. I deserve it. You do, Harrow agreed coldly. Wait. Sable stepped forward. What if there was another way? Both siblings looked at her. Exile won't fix what happened. Stripping her rank won't undo the damage. Sable moved to stand between them. But maybe Vera can earn back her place. Prove she's changed. Harrow's eyes narrowed. How? Make her prove her loyalty. Not to you as Alpha, but to me as Luna. Sable met Vera's shocked gaze. She protects me, helps me, learns to see me as pack instead of threat. She serves me directly. You want me close to you? Vera looked stunned. After everything I've done? I want you to understand why your brother chose me. I want you to see that I'm not trying to take him from you. I'm trying to build a life with him. And that includes you, whether you like it or not. Sable's hand found her stomach. This pup is going to need an aunt. A real one, not someone who resents their existence. Harrow considered, jaw working. So Vera serves as your personal guard and advisor, answers to you, helps with Luna duties, protects you and the pup. And if she fails? Vera asked quietly. If I mess up again? Then I exile you myself. Harrow's voice was flat, final. This is your one chance, sister, your only chance. Betray Sable again and you're dead to me, understand? Vera dropped to her knees in front of Sable. I swear on my life, Luna, on my pack, on the moon goddess herself. I will never betray you again. I will protect you and your pup with everything I have. I will prove I'm worthy of this second chance. Sable helped her stand. Then we start now. Days passed in a blur of recovery and rebuilding. The morning after their return, they held funerals for the fallen. 3 warriors and 2 civilians who died defending the den from Gregor's forces. Sable attended each one, despite Harrow's protests that she should rest. I'm Luna, she said firmly. These people died protecting our home. I owe them my presence. She stood beside Harrow as they honoured the dead, spoke words of comfort to grieving mates and mothers, and the pack that had judged her so harshly, looked at her with something new in their eyes. Respect. Vera was true to her word. Annoyingly, persistently true. She appeared at Sable's chambers at dawn each morning. What does the Luna need today? She accompanied Sable on pack rounds, carrying supplies, taking notes, defending her against any lingering doubters. When a young male warrior made a snide comment about Sable's past, Vera got in his face so fast he stumbled backward. That's your Luna you're disrespecting. The female who fought Gregor himself to protect this pack. Show some fucking respect, or I'll teach you some. The warrior apologized immediately. They worked together rebuilding damaged structures. Vera showed Sable how to organize work crews, delegate tasks, keep supplies flowing, showed her the parts of being Luna that had nothing to do with ceremony and everything to do with keeping a pack functioning. You're good at this, Vera admitted one afternoon. They were checking on a family whose home had burned. Better than I expected. Thanks. Sable wasn't sure if that was a compliment. I mean it. You care about them, really care. Not because they're subjects or political assets, but because they're people. Vera's expression was complicated. That's what my brother saw in you, what I was too blind to see. They started talking, really talking. Vera shared stories about Harrow as a pup, getting stuck in trees, accidentally shifting in his sleep and destroying furniture, his first clumsy attempts at alpha authority that made everyone laugh. He practiced his commanding voice in the mirror, Vera confided, grinning. Used to scare himself and shift accidentally. Took him years to control it. Sable laughed, trying to imagine her intimidating mate as a gangly teenager, terrified of his own voice. In return, she shared her fears. I don't know how to be a mother. I barely know how to be Luna. What if I mess up? What if... You'll figure it out and you won't be alone. Vera's hand found hers. You'll have Harrow, the pack, and me, if you want. I want. They became something unexpected. Something neither of them had anticipated. Friends. On the fourth day, Lara was brought before them. She looked terrible, hair tangled, face blotchy from crying, hands bound. Guards flanked her as she was forced to her knees in Harrow's office. Please, she sobbed before anyone spoke. Please, Alpha, I didn't know what Vera was planning. She told me you wanted me there, that you were unhappy with your mate, that I wanted to betray my bond. Harrow's voice was ice. You willingly got into bed with a mated Alpha, thinking what exactly? That I'd suddenly desire you over my mate? I thought, Vera said. Lyria's sobs intensified. She said you regretted the mating, that you wished you'd chosen differently. And you believed her because you wanted to believe her. Sable stepped forward. You were used, yes, Vera manipulated your jealousy. But you also made a choice. You knew I was his mate. You knew we were bonded, and you still did it. I'm sorry. Lyria's face crumpled. I'm so sorry, Luna. I was jealous and stupid and I wanted what you had and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo it. Harrow's hands clenched. You participated in a scheme that nearly destroyed my mating bond, that put my mate and unborn child at risk, that weakened this pack when we needed to be strong. Please don't kill me, Lara whispered. I'm not going to kill you. Harrow's smile was cold. I'm going to exile you. You have until sunset to leave our territory. Take only what you can carry. And if you ever return, if I ever see your face again, you'll be killed on sight. Understand? Lara nodded, sobbing too hard to speak. Get her out of my sight. The guards dragged her away, her wails echoing down the corridor. Vera stood in the corner, watching. When the door closed, cutting off Lyria's cries, she spoke quietly. I used her, saw her jealousy and twisted it for my own purposes. She was a tool to me, nothing more. And now you'll live with that, Sable said. That's part of your punishment, knowing what you did, remembering who you hurt. Good. Vera's jaw set. I should remember, should carry it, so I never make those choices again. That night, finally alone in their chambers, Harrow held Sable close. His hand rested on her stomach, still flat, still unchanged, but carrying the most precious thing either of them ever known. I thought I lost you. His voice was rough against her hair. When I woke up from whatever Vera gave me and realized you were gone, when I tracked you to that clearing and saw Gregor with his hands on you, he shuddered. I thought my heart would stop, but you found me. Barely, his arms tightened. If we'd been minutes later, if Gregor had hurt you, had hurt our pup, he pulled back to look at her face. I would have burned the world down, literally. No pack would have been safe, no territory untouched. I would have razed everything until there was nothing left but ash and memory. The intensity in his eyes stole her breath. Harrow, you don't understand. You're not just my mate. You're everything. The center of my world. The reason He broke off, like the words were too big to speak. Sable's throat was tight. I killed someone that night, that warrior. I keep seeing his face, the way his eyes went empty when You saved my life. Does it get easier taking a life? Harrow kissed her forehead, her temple, the mark on her neck. No, it doesn't get easier, but you did what you had to do to protect your mate. That's what Pack does. That's what Luna does. And I'm sorry you had to make that choice. Sorry you'll carry that weight. They lay together in the dark, processing everything. The attack, the revelations, the tiny life growing between them. "Your sister is trying," Sable murmured against his chest. "Really trying." "I know." His fingers trailed through her hair. "And I'm grateful you gave her the chance. Most wouldn't. Most would have demanded exile or worse. She's family. She made a terrible mistake, but she's learning, and soon she'll be our pup's aunt." Sable's hand covered his on her stomach. "She deserves the chance to be better." "You're too forgiving. Or maybe I just understand what it's like to be terrified of losing everything." She tilted her head to look at him. "I almost lost you. To my own doubts, to Vera's schemes, to Gregor. I know what that fear feels like." Harrow kissed her, deep and slow and full of everything he couldn't say. They were drifting towards sleep, finally at peace, when a knock shattered the quiet. "Alpha, Luna." Donovan's voice through the door, urgent but controlled. "There's news from Thornwood territory." Harrow tensed. "What news?" "Alpha Thornwood requests an audience. He says," Donovan paused, "he says he wants to see his daughter." Sable went completely still. Why now? Harrow's voice was dangerous. He heard about the attack, about Gregor, about another pause, about the pregnancy. He wants to make amends. Sable sat up, mate bond flooding with confused emotions. "My father? After all this time, now you don't have to see him," Harrow cut in. "I can send him away. Tell him he's not welcome. Please, Sable." A different voice through the door. Young, female familiar. Sable's breath caught. "Iris? I'm here. I came with father. Please, I need to see you're okay. I miss you. I've been so worried," and her voice broke on a sob. Sable's heart ached. Her baby sister. The only one who tried to defend her at the ceremony. "Luna?" Donovan's voice again. "What should I tell them?" Harrow squeezed her hand. "Your choice, my mate. Always your choice. If you want them gone, they're gone. If you want to see them..." His jaw tightened. "I'll be at your side the entire time." Sable looked at him. At the male who'd defended her, chosen her, loved her despite everything. The father of her child. Her mate. "I need to see Iris," she said quietly. "She didn't do anything wrong. She tried to help me when no one else would." "And your father?" Sable's hands clenched. "He can wait. Let him wait and wonder, the way he made me wait for any scrap of affection my entire life." She met Harrow's eyes. "But yes, I'll see him, on my terms, in my territory, with my mate beside me." Harrow's smile was fierce, proud. "That's my Luna." He raised his voice toward the door. "Donovan, bring the sister to the Luna's sitting room. The father waits in the guest quarters. Tell him the Luna will see him when she's ready, not before." "Understood, Alpha." Footsteps retreated. Sable touched her stomach, feeling the tiny life growing there. "My father's going to meet his grandchild eventually, but first he's going to learn that I'm not his bargaining chip anymore. I'm Luna. I'm your mate, and he doesn't get to walk back into my life like nothing happened." "Damn right he doesn't." Harrow pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her hair. "Welcome to being terrifying, my love. I'm very proud." "Despite everything," Sable laughed. Chapter 11, New Beginnings. The sitting room felt too formal for what was about to happen, too stiff, too full of memories of pack business and political negotiations. But it was neutral ground. Not Sable's private chambers where she'd feel vulnerable. Not the main hall where the entire pack would witness her breaking down. Compromise. Harrow stood beside her, solid and unmovable. Through the mate bond, she felt his protectiveness, fierce and ready to burn down anyone who hurt her. The door opened. Iris burst through first. "Sable!" Her sister ran across the room and threw herself into Sable's arms. They collided with enough force to make Sable stumble, but Harrow steadied her. Wren was crying, loud, messy sobs that shook her whole body. "I missed you so much," Iris gasped between tears. "Mother wouldn't let me write, wouldn't let me visit. She said you'd made your choice, and we had to respect the alliance, but I wanted to. I needed to." I know. Sable held her tighter, breathing in her sister's familiar scent. "I missed you too." Iris pulled back just enough to look at Sable's face. Her hands came up to cup her cheeks. "You look different. Stronger, like you're not scared anymore." "I'm terrified most of the time," Sable admitted with a watery laugh, "but I'm learning. And you're..." Iris's gaze dropped to Sable's stomach, still mostly flat, but there was a slight curve now if you knew to look for it. "You're going to be a mother? I'm going to be an aunt?" "Yes." Sable's hand found her belly. "In about 6 months. Iris made a sound between a laugh and a sob. I'm going to spoil them so much. I don't even care if it's a boy or girl. I'm going to be the best aunt in the history of aunts and... Ahem. They both looked up. Vera stood in the doorway, arms crossed, one eyebrow raised. Second best aunt, you mean? I've already claimed the title of best. Wren's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. Is that a challenge? Maybe. Despite everything, the tension, the fear, the upcoming confrontation, Sable laughed. The pup isn't even born yet, and you two are already competing. Get used to it, Luna. Vera's smile was small but genuine. This pup is going to be so spoiled they won't know what to do with themselves. Behind Iris, in the doorway, a man cleared his throat. Sable's father. He looked old. That was the first thing she noticed. When had he gotten so old? His hair was more grey than brown now, lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth. His shoulders hunched slightly, like he carried a weight too heavy to bear. Sable? His voice was rough. Luna? I don't have the right to call you daughter anymore. No, the word came out flat, final. You don't. He flinched like she'd slapped him. But he didn't look away. What I did, selling you, ignoring your fears, choosing politics over your safety, there's no excuse. I was a coward and a terrible father. Sable said nothing, just watched him. Let him feel the weight of her silence. When I heard about Grecor's attack, that you were taken, that you were in danger, his voice cracked. I realized I'd spent your whole life failing to protect you, and when you needed me most at that ceremony, I turned my back on you, let them shame you, didn't defend you. You chose the alliance over me. Sable's hands clenched. You always chose everything over me. The pack, your reputation, politics, your pride. Everything came before your own daughter. I know. Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes. I know, and I can't undo that. Can't take back the years of making you feel worthless. But I want you to know. He took a shaky breath. I am proud of you. Proud of the Luna you've become. Proud that you survived. Proud that you're strong enough to forgive even those who've wronged you terribly. His gaze slid to Vera, who stood silently watching. You gave my sister's Beta a second chance when you had every right to demand her exile. You're kinder than I ever was. Stronger than I ever was. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're a better leader than I could ever hope to be. Harrow's arm tightened around Sable's waist, supportive, letting her know he was there if she needed him. Sable took a long breath. Let it out slowly. I don't forgive you, she said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You don't get to show up now that I'm safe and mated and pregnant and claim father's rights. You don't get to pretend the past didn't happen. Her father's face crumpled. But he nodded, I understand. But... Sable's hand found her stomach. For my pup's sake, for Iris' sake, I won't close the door completely. Hope flickered in his eyes. You want to make amends? Then prove it. Not with words. I've heard enough pretty words to last a lifetime. Prove it with actions. Be the grandfather you never were as a father. Show up. Be present. Be someone this pup can actually trust. I will. His voice was fierce despite the tears. I swear on my life, I will. Harrow spoke, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. And if you fail her again, if you bring any harm or drama to my mate or my child, if you so much as make her cry, our alliance ends permanently. And I'll make sure every pack in these territories knows exactly what kind of father you were. The threat hung in the air. Sable's father bowed his head, accepting it. Understood, Alpha Harrow. Iris stepped forward, hesitant. May I stay for a while? Visit? I want to be here for you. Help you prepare for the pup. Be your sister again. Sable looked at Harrow. He nodded without hesitation. Your sister is always welcome here, for as long as she wants to stay. Iris squealed, actually squealed, and threw her arms around Sable again. I'm going to be the best aunt. I'll help with everything. Not if I'm the best aunt first, Vera cut in, smirking. Iris pulled back to eye Vera. Oh, it's on. Bring it, little sister. I'm not your sister. You are now. We're both family to the pup. That makes us stuck with each other. Watching them size each other up, competitive but not hostile, Sable felt something warm bloom in her chest. 3 months later, Vera, for the last time I can walk upstairs by myself. The Luna needs to conserve her strength. I'm 3 months pregnant, not dying. You're carrying the future Alpha. That makes you more precious than glass. Sable rolled her eyes but let Vera fuss anyway. She'd learned it was easier than arguing. And secretly, maybe she liked being taken care of a little. Her belly had started to show, just a small curve that you'd miss if you weren't looking. But Harrow noticed. Gods, did he notice? He wouldn't let her do anything strenuous, carried her upstairs even when she protested, brought her food at odd hours because the pup needs nutrition, talked to her stomach every night before they slept. "Hello, little one, it's your father. Your mother is the strongest, bravest female in the world. She fought an enemy alpha to protect our pack. She killed a warrior to save my life. She's going to teach you to be just as fierce and brave and beautiful." Every time, Sable melted. Every time, she fell a little more in love with him. Iris had taken to pack life like she'd been born to it. She helped in the nursery, learned from Ray about healing, charmed every pack member she met. And she and Vera had formed an unlikely friendship built on competitive haunting. "I'm making the pup a blanket," Iris announced one morning. "I'm carving them a set of toys," Vera countered. "I'm teaching them to read. I'm teaching them to fight. They're not even born yet." Sable threw her hands up. "Can you both calm down?" "No," they said in unison, then glared at each other. Harrow just laughed. "Our child is going to be so spoiled." "Good," Sable said firmly. "They deserve to be spoiled, to be loved, to grow up knowing they're wanted." Everything she'd never had. 5 months later, the first kick happened during a pack meeting. Sable was sitting beside Harrow, listening to Donovan drone on about border patrols when it happened. A flutter. Then a definite thump against her belly. She gasped. Harrow was at her side instantly, meeting forgotten. "What? What's wrong? Is it the pup? Should I get Ray?" "No, the baby moved." Sable's hand flew to her stomach. It kicked. I felt it kick. Harrow's eyes went wide. His hand joined hers, pressing gently against the swell of her belly. They waited, breathless, then thump. A tiny foot or fist pushing against the inside of her womb, pushing against Harrow's palm. "That's..." His voice broke. "That's our pup! That's our child! They're real! They're..." Tears spilled down his cheeks, the mighty alpha crying openly in front of his entire pack. No one laughed. Several pack members were crying too. "May I?" Vera appeared beside them, voice soft. "May I feel?" Sable guided her hand to the right spot. Waited. The pup kicked again, harder this time, like they knew they had an audience. Vera laughed. The sound pure joy. "Little warrior, already so strong, already letting us know they're here." After that, everyone wanted to feel. Pack members approached carefully, respectfully, asking permission before touching Sable's belly. She let them connect with the pup who would someday lead them. Her father visited that month, brought gifts, carved animals, soft blankets, a mobile he'd made himself. "May I?" He gestured to her stomach. Sable hesitated, then nodded. His hand was gentle, reverent. The pup kicked and his face crumpled. "Hello, little one. I'm your grandfather, and I'm going to be better for you than I was for your mother. I promise." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. 7 months later, Sable was huge, waddled more than walked, got winded going up a single flight of stairs, and Vera and Harrow had become absolutely insufferable. "I'll get the Luna's pillow. No, I'll get it. She's my mate. She's my responsibility to protect as beta. Both of you sit down." Sable pointed at chairs. "I can get my own damn pillow." They looked at her with matching expressions of horror. "The Luna shouldn't be. The Luna needs to rest. The Luna is going to scream." Sable took a deep breath. "I love you both, but you're driving me insane. I'm pregnant, not helpless." "But..." "No buts. Everyone out. I need 10 minutes of peace." They filed out reluctantly. Sable heard them arguing in the hallway about whose fault it was that she was stressed. Despite everything, she smiled. "This is my family, chaotic and overprotective and absolutely ridiculous, and I love them." 9 months later, the birth Sable woke at midnight to wetness between her legs and pain tearing through her middle. "Harrow," her voice came out strangled. "Harrow, wake up." He was awake instantly, every sense on alert. "What? What's wrong?" "The baby. I think another contraction hit." Sable gasped. "I think it's time." For a second, Harrow just stared. Then he exploded into motion. "Ray! Someone get Ray! The pup is coming! Donovan, prep the birthing room! Vera, Harrow." Sable grabbed his hand. "Calm down." "Calm down! You're in labour! How am I supposed to calm down?" The door burst open. Vera appeared, already alert. "Brother, you're making it worse. Go pace outside." "I'm not leaving. Stay." Sable squeezed his hand. Please, I need you here. And he did. Stayed through every contraction, let her crush his hand, wiped her forehead. Murmured encouragement when she was sure she couldn't do it anymore. Hours passed, long, painful hours. Then finally, a cry split the air. It's a girl! Ray's voice was triumphant. A healthy baby girl. She cleaned the pup quickly, wrapped her in soft cloth and placed her in Sable's arms. Tiny. Perfect. Dark hair plastered to her head, eyes squeezed shut as she wailed her displeasure at being born. She's perfect. Sable was crying. She's so perfect. Harrow was crying too, touching his daughter's tiny hand with one finger. Hello, little one. I'm your father, and I will protect you and your mother for the rest of my life. I will give you everything. Love you always. Keep you safe. The baby's hand wrapped around his finger, held on, and Harrow broke completely. They named her Liana, after Harrow's mother who died when he was young. The pack celebrated for days. Gifts poured in from every family. Even neighbouring packs sent congratulations. Vera was utterly devoted, held Liana constantly, sang to her in the old language, threatened anyone who looked at her wrong. I will burn down the world for this pup, she declared. I know you will, Sable said softly. You're going to be an amazing aunt. Iris visited within days. Cried when she held her niece. I'm an aunt. I'm really an aunt. She's perfect. You're perfect. Everything is perfect. Even Sable's father came, brought more gifts. May I hold her? Sable hesitated. Then placed Liana in his arms. He held his granddaughter with tears streaming down his weathered face. Hello, little one. I'm your grandfather. I failed your mother. I won't fail you. I promise I'll be the grandfather I should have been as a father. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but watching him with Liana, seeing the genuine love and regret, it was a start. 6 months later. Sable stood on the balcony overlooking the packlands. Liana was in her arms, babbling happily at nothing. 6 months old and already trying to shift. Her fingers would sprout tiny claws sometimes when she got excited. Harrow came up behind them, wrapped his arms around both his girls. What are you thinking about? Sable leaned back into his warmth. That night, at the Crimson Den, how terrified I was, how desperate. Regrets? Not even one. She turned her head to look at him. I walked into that darkness thinking I was choosing a stranger to save me from a monster. Instead, I found you, the monster and the savior, the Alpha and Leo. Everything I needed wrapped up in one impossible, complicated, perfect male. Harrow kissed her temple. You saved yourself, Sable. You chose to be brave, chose to fight, chose to love even when it was hard. Luna, Vera's voice called from below. She stood in the courtyard, hands on hips. Stop hoarding the pup. It's my turn to spoil her. Beside her, Iris waved enthusiastically. I made her a new toy. She doesn't need more toys, Vera argued. She needs proper combat training. She's 6 months old. Never too early to start. Sable laughed. Your sister is obsessed. She loves you both, as she should. Harrow nuzzled her neck, careful of the mark there. Ready to go down? In a minute. Sable looked out over the territory, their home, their pack, their family. I chose the devil in the darkness, she thought, and he gave me everything. A mate who loves me, a family that protects me, a daughter I'll raise to be brave and strong and free to choose her own path. Sometimes the monster you fear is exactly what you need. And sometimes the scariest thing you can do is trust that love is worth the risk. Liana grabbed a fistful of Sable's hair and yanked. Ow! Liana! No! Harrow gently untangled their daughter's fingers. Easy, little warrior. That's your mother's hair. Liana giggled, showing tiny fangs. She's going to be trouble, Harrow said, but his voice was full of pride. Good. Sable kissed her daughter's head. Let her be trouble. Let her be wild and fierce and exactly who she's meant to be. They headed down together. Vera immediately claimed Liana, cooing at her. Wren showed off the toy she'd carved. Donovan appeared with reports that could wait. The pack moved around them, working, laughing, living. A family built not from obligation, but from choice. From love. From a desperate girl who walked into darkness and found her light. From a devil who turned out to be exactly what she needed. I love you, Sable whispered to Harrow as they watched their family. I love you too. He pulled her close, always have, since that first moment in the Crimson Den, since you looked at me with fear and hope all mixed together and asked me to choose you. You did more than that. You chose me every day after, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Liana's laugh echoed across the courtyard. Pure joy, pure innocence, pure love. And Sable knew, bone deep and certain, that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Home. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed spending time with our pack today. If you love this story, like, share, and drop a comment below. I love reading your thoughts, and I'd also love to know where you're listening from. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new tale. There's plenty more Alpha Romance waiting for you in our other audiobooks, ready to make your heart race.